Hello, friends. Bryce and I are recording our podcasts at the same time, so you're not getting a phone call from me. You're getting my own segment. All that really means is that I can say pretty much whatever I want, and Bryce can't stop me unless he wants to do some heavy editing, which I don't suspect will happen. First, we're going to take a look at some of the stats that I got from the Seeing the Elite Discord server championship entries. We don't have a good name for that title yet. We need a cooler title name. People, hit me with a cooler title name for that, because I'm down. I'm the commissioner. I can decide. So let's come up with something fun. Anyway, here are some of the cool stats things that came in. First of all, the average was much more average this time. Getting 53 points, it was just about dead middle in terms of who voted for what, which as should it be. That's how it should work. So it worked out appropriate this time. There are only a couple of things where everyone unanimously agreed, and one of them turned out not to be true. So the unanimous votes across the board where every single participant picked the same thing were Cody going over on Darby Allin. Obviously, that was a no contest. Didn't happen. Jon Moxley beating Joey Janela. Everyone loves Joey Janela. Everyone knew Jon Moxley was going to win this one. And the other thing everyone was unanimous on, that when it comes to Jon Moxley, there will be blood. So let's talk a little bit about the big winners and the big losers of the night. First up, it comes to a personal vendetta for me. It's our Reed House Championship that my brother Bryce and I passed back and forth between us. After winning at Double or Nothing, he had to convince me to put it on the line here for FYTER Fest. He did that by setting up a title versus Lucha Mask match. That's what we had. Let's see how the results turned out. I did okay. I didn't beat the average. I pulled in 51 points. But Bryce...
Come on.
Managed to squeak out 49. Bryce! Oh, fuck you! Yes!
God damn it.
So, first of all, Bryce put some real stupid fucking answers for his extra guys here, and so that's just right out ridiculous. But Bryce is not only in a match with me. No, someone else challenged him. That person is his co-host, who I'm sure is happy I included his results at all. Because it was real touch or go there for a minute. I didn't want to, but I did. And ultimately, it paid off for him because he got 55 points, topping Bryce's 49.
Oh, God
pretty handily,
damn
pretty
it.
significantly. And I'm sure none of us will hear the end of that. But now for the big prize, for the wide prize, for everybody who participated, what they were looking for. And let me tell you, first off, our consolation prize, our thank you, but you sucked prize. This is our try harder next time or try it all prize. I'm just kidding. I'm just giving you a little friendly love. We love that you came and participated. It was real cute. Maybe next time. So, without further ado, with 33 points, the lowest point total of the evening, Harry. It's Harry. Come to the Discord. You can hang out with Harry. Give him your consolation. We appreciate his effort in this regard. As much as we have the doldrums of Bryce, JD, and myself, and we have our Harrys, who truly I only have like 20 points on, so it's like not even. That's not very impressive. We've got some wizards in this server, some savants, and once again, we have two people who have risen to the top. The only people to break 60 points, to get higher than 60 points, is our current number one contender, Guillotine the Screen Name Dream, and our current champion, Equal Scorpion 1. So the question is, when these two titans of the server face off again here at FYTER Fest, it could not be more picturesque. It could not be more storybook. What happened between the two? Well, Equal Scorpion 1, polish up that title and put it on your shelf because you are still the champion. We have not had a title change. Guillotine, the screen name Dream, you came so close. 65 points for you, 69. Nice. 4 equals Scorpion 1. I've taken up so much time. I feel like just really enjoying the moment. But for now, I will say we will meet again for Fight for the Fallen.
Fucking asshole.
Fucking brevity, man. What a prick.
What a verbose motherfucker.
Yeah.
All right, let's do the show.
Yeah.
We call ourselves the Elite.
Better than you, and you know it.
If not us, who? And if not now, when? We don't care about race or gender or sex or religion. If you're an elite athlete, we want you. Change the world. We are going to change the whole universe!
This is what you call a paradigm shift.
He saw what wrestling was and realized what it could be.
All Elite Wrestling!
For the 15th time, it's Monday morning, and you know what that means. It's time for the next chapter of the only professional wrestling podcast that is changing the world every week. This is Seeing the Elite, an AEW podcast. I am your host, Bryce Rena. I'm joined by my friend, my co-host, my tag team partner, Mr. Jonathan Davis.
How's it going, buddy?
This is FYTER Fest. Finally, we're here. Didn't get to watch the show live this weekend. Jonathan did. Finally got to watch it as I got back today. Finally got to see the t-shirt that Jonathan owes me.
Hey, I may owe you a t-shirt, but you owe your brother a mask.
Yeah, yes. I gained a t-shirt and lost a mask. You know, hey. But what a wild show it was. As always, the timestamps are going to be your friend if you want to go right to the show. We have a week of content to get through before then. But I guess generally we can kind of talk about how we felt about the show as a continuation of Double or Nothing for them right now. It's interesting because after Double or Nothing, Tony had this quote about, the next one's got to be even better than that. This show wasn't that.
I feel like he meant All Out.
Sure, hopefully.
But yes, 100% no. This show was not better than Double or Nothing. No, that's not to say it was a good show. It was a fun
It was
show.
a good show, and I feel like a lot of people misunderstood
Yeah, absolutely.
the show. One thing I want to...
including the crowd, to be honest with you.
The crowd, yes. It was a mixed crowd. Some people were there who knew nothing about what they were saying, but there were a lot of passionate AEW fans there as well. It's kind of a combustible Edison, kind of confusing, you know. But the one thing that's been sticking out, and I really don't like to draw attention to this figure because he's a fucking idiot, but Jim Cornette and all these people getting online talking about the Nakazawa versus Jabali match. First of all, if you don't understand the cross-promotion potential here, you're a moron. Second of all, this whole idea, they're like, even terrible promoters never hired amateurs. Vince McMahon hires amateurs and puts them in the ring all the time.
Yeah, he had a fucking
Ronda
match
Rousey,
at
fucking Snooki.
yeah,
like,
at WrestleMania.
Yeah, at WrestleMania. This shit happens all the fucking time. But of course, you know, if Vince does it, they never saw it, you know, incapable of like actually critiquing this place in the industry. But when AEW does it, then it's like a new terrible idea. No, I will admit, did the match go over like two trained professionals? No, but it was on the pre-show and it was for the crowd there who knows the guy, right? So
It served its purpose. It did what it was going to do. The end of the match was surprising to me, but
yeah.
it is what it is. You know, we had some really funny talks about that match in the Discord because like all of us were saying like, yeah, I wonder if we're gonna read in the news in like 3 hours that Jim Cornette died from like a massive aneurysm. But you know what? Fuck him, man. If he doesn't get it, he doesn't get it. He's never gonna get it.
And again, as we've said and we'll probably say time and time on the show, it's okay to watch something and say, "Oh, this isn't for me." You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
It's okay to watch this and say, "Clearly, I was not the person in mind for this content." Yeah. But I'm sure there were people who thought that match was fucking
funny,
great.
Yeah,
like there were cool, funny things about that match. So I don't know, man.
And you know, not just that, but it's also there's nothing wrong with saying like, okay, this match isn't for me. That's no big deal. I'll watch the next one. And you know, not every match on the card is going to be for every person. I can say flat out, some of the matches on that card weren't for me. They were still entertaining, and I found enjoyment out of them. So it is what it is. Now, on the flip side of that, there is no WWE card that could honestly entertain me at this point, but that product is not for me. So it's fine.
Yeah. And you know, not trying to give a signal boost to people like that who live within the community, are a toxic influence on the wrestling community, and only thrive off of poo-pooing things that they wish they could be involved with but can't because they can't hold a job at a company.
Or just can't keep their fucking mouth shut.
Yeah, but, you know, I guess I would urge people who didn't enjoy the match, whose sensibilities were offended by the match or whatever, not to throw shade at anybody at home who felt that way. I guess the only thing I would say is that they're a new company and they're going to try things.
Yeah.
And sometimes they don't work. And we're going to talk more about certain matches and certain things that didn't work later.
But
for now...
And that's the key thing. Everything about AEW right now is we're going to try shit. We're going to throw a bunch of, you know, we're going to throw shit at the wall. We're going to see what sticks. You know.
Yeah. Be happy they're doing this now before they hit television.
Exactly. And for me, if you knew looking at the card that you weren't going to enjoy the Nakazawa-Jabali match, you shouldn't have watched the pre-show.
That's the biggest thing about the Jim Cornette thing is he knew he wasn't going to like the show, so why the fuck are you watching it?
Yeah, you could have just, you know, walked away for 15 minutes.
It's like me. I don't like... I don't watch Doctor Who, right? So I'm not going to go and watch a Doctor Who movie in a theater because I don't fucking watch it. It doesn't make any sense to me. Oh, well, it does. It does because
it does.
People pay attention to him when he talks, right? So
yeah,
it's fucking ridiculous. Anyway,
enough of that. Let's get into the fun
in the
stuff.
Worst transition ever. If you're joining us for the first time, welcome. Jonathan and I are two friends, fans, lovers of professional wrestling who are here every single Monday morning with all the latest news from All Elite Wrestling. This is not a sports entertainment show. It's an entertaining sports show supported by fans like you from all over the world. On YouTube, iTunes, Spotify, podcast services everywhere. Subscribe, review, give us 5 stars just like Meltzer because it makes us feel so sweet. Jonathan, how sweet?
Too sweet, buddy. Too sweet.
You bet your ass, man. Facebook.com/Seeing the Elite. Twitter.com/Seeing the Elite. Seeing the Elite. No G. And more importantly than all of that, join us on Discord where we're having a blast. Last night that I caught up on today, everybody just going at each other in the Discord. tinyurl.com/Seeing the Elite with fans from all over the world. It's awesome, dude. But first, let's get into Being the Elite. Once again, if you want to skip forward, Jonathan's going to have the time codes. To a certain extent, of course, all these time codes are done pre-edit, so they're going to kind of be around where they should be.
As well as I have ADD and don't always remember to put them down.
Being the Elite number 158, Control Room. This episode opens cold with CD alone in the locker room. He's running through the SCU bit in his head when he notices a figure enter the room. He excitedly asks the figure if they will help him with the SCU bit. Britt Baker refuses. She's still upset with Christopher Daniels ever since Christopher Daniels' dubious March 10th, 2017 victory over Adam Cole for the ROH World title. CD is beside himself. He says, "You're not really still mad about that, are you?" Britt drops her anger act. She says she's not really still mad. In fact, she has a surprise for CD. All he has to do is close his eyes and reach out his hand. CD reaches out and touches something that, quote, feels like an electrical cable, but it feels like meat, end quote. He opens his eyes and sees that his hand is wrapped around Joey Ryan's magical wrinkle stick. Cut to black as Joey flips CD onto the floor, and we hit the title sequence.
Fun stuff. Holding a grudge, man. What the hell? 2 years? I mean, I get it, but still.
I would love it if wrestling worked that way.
It'd be great, dude.
If everyone had as long a memory as the fans do,
It'd be amazing.
They're like, yeah, no, I'm still mad at you for that thing that happened forever ago.
It was funny stuff. It was better than the normal SCU segments. Mm-hmm. This also made me realize I can't watch Being the Elite while I'm out on lunch.
In case somebody walks by behind.
Yeah, and then there's just like, what the fuck are you watching, man?
We cut out the title sequence for a recreation of the Family Guy skinned knee bit, basically, but with CD on the locker room floor. We now go to FYTER FEST HQ, which is Kenny's house, Jabali's house.
It's got to be Jabali's house.
It's somebody's. Got to be somebody's because it was just full of I would say Jabali's house because there was no. I would assume Kenny's house would have wrestling stuff around, but then again, Punk's house doesn't have wrestling stuff around in it. You know what I mean?
Yes. So. The reason I say Jabali's house is there's too many of like the arcade cabinets were like CEO branded.
Oh, okay.
So that's why.
Probably Jabali's house.
That and I'm still unsure of where Kenny lives. Because he still has Japanese citizenship. I mean, I'm sure he's in the process of moving if he hasn't already, but still,
Kenny enters and asks for the latest details on FYTER FEST. Unfortunately, the organic salmon is canceled. Kenny says that's fine, although it doesn't seem fine. They'll just use regular salmon. They don't have regular salmon either. They have no salmon. Kenny asks what they do have. It turns out that they have 10,000 loaves of bread. Kenny says he can work with that if they get the best prime cuts, fruits, vegetables, but they don't have any of that either. All they have is cheese. Jabali offers some of his fried chicken or some fresh chipotle. Kenny asks if everything Jabali does is just a ripoff of something else, which is great considering what FYTER FEST is.
Yeah, it was a pot calling the kettle black kind of thing right here, but it was great, dude.
Kenny asks about Robert Downey Jr. Apparently, $1,500 and an economy class ticket is not enough to get an RDJ meet and greet.
Shocking.
He then offers to he calls him up. He says that even though his career is failing now that Iron Man is dead, he's willing to bump him up to premium economy.
Oh man, that was the funniest fucking thing. He's like, yeah, okay. Okay, Kenny, we'll go with failing.
The funny thing about RDJ is that he could have a failing. He could never work a movie again. He'd be fucking fine. So
yeah, literally never has to work again.
Doesn't matter if his career is failing or not, although it's clearly not. We now find MJF at the wrestling gym contemplating aloud why every girl on Tinder is, quote, fat and disgusting, end quote. In walks MJF's butler, Walter, who I hope returns as a recurring character.
Yeah,
on BT.
dude, this needs to stay because that's amazing shit.
I think they have great chemistry, and I think it adds to MJF's rich guy character. It's a little Alberto Del Rio, but I'll take it.
I don't care. It's funnier.
Yeah, because he's so much more abusive.
Exactly. Yes. The thing with Hangman was a little. You were towing a line hard, but yeah.
Walter has arrived late, and because he has been out finding MJF the perfect Hangman doppelganger for training purposes. The camera pans on a dude dressed like a cowboy who loudly exclaims, "Duh, I like horses." MJF
Very funny,
just,
but like I said, you are towing a line.
MJF just goes off on Walter, and for good reason. MJF had requested that Walter find, quote, the biggest white trash hick in the whole universe, end quote. But this guy, quote, might as well be from New York compared to Adam Page, end quote. But time is of the essence, so MJF calms himself down and then gets fake Hangman into the ring. In the ring, Walter feeds MJF a fresh bottle of Poland Spring. MJF asks, "Where did you get this water from? Mexico?" It's actually not. It's from Maine.
You would know.
Right. It's from like an hour away from here. He says, "God damn it, what do I pay you for?" And Walter says, "You don't."
Which is completely accurate.
MJF stands face to face with fake Hangman, who again says, "I like horses." He says, "Oh shit, Walter, I totally forgot. Hangman has a bum knee." And Walter screams, "I'm sorry, Mr. Friedman," jumps in, whacks fake Hangman in the knee with a chair, and then fake Hangman falls to the mat. MJF grabs fake Hangman's ankles and says, "There's a new hitman in town," before slapping on the sharpshooter. Hangman taps out as MJF says, "I'll see you at FYTER FEST, Hangman." I thought it was a great segment.
It was good, dude. The whole, especially Walter just appearing out of nowhere with the chair. That was amazing, dude.
It was awesome. I think it did a lot of good character building for MJF, and I love the character of Walter. I hope they keep that.
I mean, not really that MJF needs it, but yeah, absolutely.
Dude, anytime he's given the opportunity, dude. We're going to talk about MJF in this episode. Next, live from his pool, Matt tells us that the Bucks will appear for a meet and greet at Florida SuperCon in Miami, Florida. For those that want to check that out, you can find the information. I didn't write it down here because fuck it.
It's kind of just a random thing and totally not important to us at all.
There's also a little bit of Matt having fun with his new waterproof camera.
Yeah,
really
homie bought a GoPro.
Faces.
You can tell, so he's just...
Next, we head out back at an indie show. Rick Knox is looking at his phone when a car approaches. Knox immediately starts scolding the driver, Luchasaurus, for driving with Jungle Boy on his shoulders threaded out through the exposed roof. It's a Jeep that they're in, so like Jungle Boy's out through the roof.
Yeah,
right?
so it works.
Which I don't know if that's strictly illegal, but it definitely frowned upon.
I don't know. That's a really good question.
There's a law that says you can't be on your friend's shoulders while they drive.
I'm sure there is, but you know.
I'm sure they would only get him on a technicality, like he doesn't have a seatbelt on.
That's probably, yeah. That, not to mention, you know, you're a guy in a dinosaur mask and you have a 15-year-old on your shoulders. What the fuck are you doing?
Luchasaurus refuses to exit the vehicle until Rick Knox starts to count, which I thought was great. Luchasaurus and Jungle Boy quickly exit the vehicle in a fashion which guarantees they will be apart for the least amount of time possible. And then Rick tells Luchasaurus that he can't drive a car around with Jungle Boy on his shoulders. And Luchasaurus comes back with the only way he knows how. He says, "Look, with all due respect, I have a master's degree."
Yeah. There's no argument there, man.
My only hope is that this eventually leads to a segment with Dr. Britt Baker, where he says, "Look, I have a master's degree." And she says,
like, "Yeah.
So?
I have a doctorate."
Now, Pretty Peter Avalon is alone with his thoughts. like any true librarian. That's when Cutler approaches. He compliments Peter for embracing the librarian gimmick. He even has his library card with him. And then asks, so, have you talked to her at all? Peter hasn't. He's too shy. But he thinks that maybe they could one day be called the Librarians. Then we go back to CD for more of the sort of Family Guy bit, right? Cut back out of that to Warrior Cry as we head back to Mexico for some extra footage from last week. There's a commercial for FYTER Fest. Now to the Houston airport where the Bucks have a layover on the flight home. They've been sitting for 6 hours, and Matt has watched their loss to the Lucha Bros 5 times. It seems to have deeply affected him. But apparently not so deeply that they didn't fucking win last night.
Yeah, they should have paid that off more.
Yeah, we're going to talk about the booking, too.
Yeah.
Because the booking's getting weird at this point. BTE mailbag fan asks asks Kenny if one of the girls from the Joshi match was once the girl from the famous viral video with Kenny Omega where he wrestled that 9-year-old girl, 7-year-old girl, whatever she was. Kenny says no, but he has a long history with a lot of the Joshi talent featured and began tagging with Riho when she was just 11. So there's that. Next, MJF answers a contractually obligated BTE mailbag question. He films it vertically, quote, "That's right, fuck you, Nick." He didn't answer my question, of course, which was how come bad things happen to good people. But I'll let that slide under. I'll send him another question when he goes back up. Instead, he answers the Elite Era Network's question, "Dearest MJF, why is everyone so jealous of your star power? You are highly underrated, and it's a shame that you aren't automatically AEW World Champion." His answer, of course, is, "I don't disagree at all. You're completely right."
There's no answer there. What the fuck are you talking about, man? Duh.
Next, Matt and Nick are preparing for their match in Mexico. Nick asks if before they can go out, he can get a favor from Matt. Matt says, sure. He says, I don't need a tag team partner. I don't need a friend. I need my older brother.
Dude, this was the best part of the whole thing, man. Just like so much, just being so shitty about it. I loved it.
They hug, fake crying while they laugh at each other. And Matt says, and they say that we're corny, huh? Which is great. Oh, man, I'm excited for this match at Fight for the Fallen. I think it's going to be awesome. Now we're back at headquarters. Kenny tells Robert Downey Jr. that he better hope that there's a multiverse and then hangs up. He says that the new stars are unreasonable, asks if they can get Uncle Jesse from Full House. Uncle Jesse reportedly said that he didn't want Kenny to, quote, fuck up his brand. Kenny then prepares to settle for Uncle Joey instead, but Alanis Morissette will pull out of the event if he comes. This is a reference to them having been a couple for a long time, and supposedly You Ought to Know being written about him or whatever. Which is, I don't know if that's been confirmed. That's like an urban legend
It's
thing.
still urban legend. It's one of those things like that you will never actually know until one of them's dead.
He even tries for Aunt Becky, but she's going to jail. I laughed so hard at that. She was involved in this college bribery scandal. She's actually legitimately going to jail, which I think is funny.
No, she's going to trial.
Okay.
Because she refused to take a fucking deal.
Next, Kenny asks about musicians. Ariana Grande is out, but the musical associate suggests Rick Astley.
I'd be fucking down for that. That'd be amazing, dude.
Kenny says the musical associate can, quote, Rickroll yourself right out of here. He then gets mad when the person involved actually gets down on the floor and rolls out of the room. Sorry for following directions, Kenny, you know. We then have a fake ending. We come back. Jabali is stressed that FYTER FEST is a week away, and Kenny is leaving him to do everything. Meanwhile, Kenny is in another room, in another part of the house, just going ham on the DDR Extreme arcade machine.
That was the best part, dude. It's like, number one, you have a full-scale DDR machine. Number two, you're actually playing it. He wasn't bullshitting. And just not doing anything, and they walk into him playing DDR. I was like, okay, cool, buddy.
And they wonder why it was a disaster.
Yeah. Idiots.
It's important to note here, it's not on my news, but I thought it was so amazing that Blink-182 pulled out of the event the night before on Twitter.
Oh, they did?
Yeah.
Oh, that's amazing.
I don't have the tweet here, but they got on Twitter and they pulled out they said at Kenny Omega, sorry, we got to pull out maybe next time, which is funny because they were the band that famously did that like the night before Fyre Fest, right? So I think that's awesome. It was either them or maybe Mark Hoppus's like personal account that did it. Either way, very, very funny tie-in to Fyre Fest, and it was great that those guys had a sense of humor about it, which they got it at that point. Next, we have some fairly big news, although it's still speculation, it should be noted. AEW's television's projected start date on TNT. This comes to us from H. Jenkins for Ringside News, but like with a lot of wrestling news, it's really from Dave.
Essentially, yeah. Okay,
here we go.
So here's what Mark Hoppus put out. This was 22 hours ago, so this was yesterday.
Yeah.
Yo, Kenny Omega, the check didn't clear and catering was ill, so we had to bounce. And he posted a picture of a styrofoam container. And
he posted the original Fyre Fest photo. That's the original one that got out on social media.
Oh, man, that's fucking amazing, dude. That's, fucking perfect.
That's how you know your Fyre Fest parody is reaching the right people.
Yeah, exactly, man.
And some of the jokes that they made about Fyre Fest during this thing. Oh, I'm so excited to talk about it.
My biggest complaint with that is it should have continued the whole night.
Yeah. I feel like they made the right ones at the right times, though, to be honest.
Yeah, fair enough.
The Wrestling Observer newsletter notes that it looks as if AEW's television show will debut on TNT on Wednesday, October 2nd. This comes off the heels of AEW registering a trademark for Wednesday Night Dynamite. Although we won't know anything for sure until it's officially announced, it seems as if we should be expecting AEW Wednesday Night Dynamite on TNT starting on October 2nd from 9 p.m. to 11 p.m.
So the thing about this is this is the same bullshit that we were talking about last week. They're speculating based off of the trademark. It means nothing. Sure. Now, of course, Dave may have some extra info on this.
Yes,
but,
that he's not telling us.
Right,
yes.
But at the same time, he's really just looking at this is my opinion, and this is like of the optics that you and I have. He's looking at the trademark. He's looking at when the traditional seasons start for fall television, which is end of September, beginning of October. So first Wednesday of that is October 2nd.
Yeah.
Now, given this is our opinion, we don't know everything, but that's what it looks like.
Smart money would be on it being Wednesday night on TNT, right? Because basketball is Tuesday night.
Yeah.
So I don't think it's like a huge conclusion to jump through to, but it's not. Again, it's not set in stone at this point. But I would
that's
say
really the biggest thing is that they have to stop acting like this is concrete details of everything.
Sure. And it doesn't look like he does. Here it looks like he approached it appropriately here, but
well, he did, yes.
Sure, it's everybody else. That's one of the bigger problems with Dave too, is that everybody else, he said it, and even when he does have time to be like, maybe this is maybe what's happening, people are like, Dave said this is happening. It's like, well, not really.
Yeah.
let's move on to the road for Fight for the Fallen #1. Now, I was considering saving this for next week because it's like about the next event that's happening after. But it came out
happened
this
this
week.
so
And luckily there really isn't that much to talk about in here. It's just sort of introducing the concepts of the show, more or less.
it was pretty much just a background video.
Yeah. This episode opens with a testimonial from Nick Sobek, AEW's Vice President of Business Operations. Nick tells us that AEW is a dream that Tony has been actively talking about for at least 3 years. He continues by saying that the project has already proven itself worthwhile time and time again since launch. Nick then talks about the shooting at Jacksonville Landing. For those uninitiated, this is from Wikipedia. The Jacksonville Landing shooting, also known as the Jacksonville shooting, was a mass shooting that occurred at a video game tournament for the video game Madden NFL 19 in Jacksonville Landing, Jacksonville, Florida, on August 26th, 2018 at about 1:30 p.m. A lone gunman, David Katz, shot and killed 2 people and injured another 10 before committing suicide. David Katz was a middling-level pro gamer who had lost earlier in the night, came back with a gun, and took the lives of 2 people in an incredibly tragic happening. One that I remember this news story when it came out. So this putting this around FYTER Fest, that's sort of one of the reasons for this, but I don't even think we can pretend like this is a problem that is endemic to Jacksonville either, because this happens far too much in our country. So
yeah, pretty much. I mean, it's something that's happening everywhere right now, and it needs to stop.
Yeah. Nick tells us that Tony and the Jags and Jacksonville as a whole were deeply wounded by this incident, the likes of which became far too common in today's society before and after. The shooting took place just blocks away from both Tony's home and Daly's place, the home of Fight for the Fallen. Nick tells us that VAAC, Victims Assistance Advisory Council, is the organization that will decide what to do with the money generated from Fight for the Fallen. All of the proceeds from Fight for the Fallen will go to help the victims of gun violence as well as future preventative measures. Nick says that buying a ticket to the show is the best way to help support the cause. There are still seats available last time I checked. Though I would be absolutely shocked if they did not provide a way to donate through the broadcast.
Yeah, I'm sure there will be some. If it's not announced beforehand, it will be announced during the broadcast of a special donation link.
They gotta, right?
It's just common sense, dude.
I would hope so.
Yeah. So we'll see.
I just think it's a
that.
missed opportunity if they don't, because I know people would donate. But yeah. Next, we see some training video of Allie and Brandy as Q tries his best sales pitch for Brandy Rhodes. Her stuff in the ring looked weird, man. I hope that her and Allie put on a great match.
I'm sure they will, dude.
We'll
I'm not
see
really
about
worried
it,
about it. It's
yeah. We now see a piece of MJF's segment from BTE before Hangman comes in with his own promo. He says, MJF, I saw your little BTE bit this week, and I gotta admit, it was pretty funny, but you got 2 things wrong. First of all, if you don't like horses, well, fuck you. Second of all, my bum knee is at 100%. I'm as healthy as I've ever been. Max, I understand what you tried to do. You tried to use the one tool that you do have, your little mouth, and talk your way into a match where for some reason I was supposed to put my title shot on the line against you, but you have fucked up. Because now you have a match against Jungle Boy, against Jimmy Havoc with a staple gun, and against a healthy Hangman. MJF, all the money that you pretend you have can't buy you out of this one. And Saturday, I'm going to beat the dog shit out of you. Great promo.
Fucking missed opportunities, though, man.
He did come out on Twitter and say, I had the opportunity to say healthy as a horse, but my dumbass missed it, which is great. Jimmy Havoc didn't have a staple gun in the match, which was
fucking disappointing as hell, man.
Yeah.
Like
great promo. I don't know what it's doing in this series because we're in Road to
I think
Fight for
it
the
was
Fallen.
just because this was going to be the last video that came out before the event, so they had to throw it in there.
Okay, then it's officially time to take the pay-per-view names out of
I agree. This series should just be called The Road.
Or whatever they're going to call it. It shouldn't be called The Road to Fight for the Fallen if you're using it to hype a match for FYTER Fest.
Yeah, it was. It was weird, but it's also they're in this really weird place that these two events ended up being 2 weeks apart, and that's kind of accidental in a way, but it is what it is.
I think it's kind of a missed opportunity overall. I don't know why they didn't do like a tournament. Wouldn't it have made sense to do a tournament at the tournament?
Sort of, but a tournament is a hard sell for a crowd that was going to be mixed like that because there's no investment.
Sure, I guess.
And the tournament that they've already announced it would have been way too soon to do that.
Yeah, I guess. I think you could have thrown together a little silly tournament. It would have probably been better than doing this show the way that they did. But I'm probably wrong about that. Next is a video with Tony Schiavone and Jake Schiavone.
Yeah,
I'm never gonna get that name right. And Jake the Snake Roberts talking about how much they loved Cody and Dustin's match. And tag team wrestling in general. It's a great segment, but there's no point in recapping.
No, not at all. I mean, but it was a really good segment. It's something that like appealed to like me, who's like, I grew up listening to Tony Schiavone on commentary every week.
Yeah.
So that's like, it was a cool thing, and just having a segment where you have Jake is always good, considering he really shouldn't be here.
Yeah.
So it was a lot of fun, man, and he said something at the end like, this is a match that everybody should be looking forward to, not just us old wrestling guys. And it was a really good point.
Yeah, I am excited about it. I hope to see a little more heat thrown on this from Cody, who's been kind of shockingly silent on this match. Was also kind of shockingly silent on his match with Darby ahead of time, too. Didn't really get anything from him, so...
Yeah, I kind of feel like it's also just a timing thing. They did Double or Nothing, and then they all went on vacation.
Yeah. Let's move into the big outrage of the week. As reported by Alfred Kahn-Uwa from Forbes.
We should totally farm out a little button to be outrage of the week.
Everybody was up in arms about this. It's kind of an interesting conversation that we're going to have here. WWE has officially established a pattern of scheduling events on the same day as AEW events. It all started earlier this month when WWE curiously announced NXT TakeOver Cardiff, the forthcoming pay-per-view for WWE offshoot NXT UK on the same day as AEW All Out. I will just say, quote, I will just say to everyone in here, contrary to what I'm sure some of the buzz, the date of August 31 is a date we've had for a long time. The building has been booked with us in Cardiff. Geez, long before WrestleMania 35, I think. We just hadn't announced it because it wasn't the right time. You don't want to announce something for a brand 6 months out or whatever. At least I don't, the way I see it. Tonight was the right night to do it. It had nothing to do with anybody else. To be honest, we will take place live in prime time in the UK and be on in the afternoon here in the US, so it is what it is. This is Triple H talking about this NXT TakeOver Cardiff pay-per-view that's taken place not the same time as All
same
Out,
day,
but during the day, and was unfortunately for them announced right after.
Yeah. So I mean,
wow.
we talked about this before. I mean, I don't know if the part about this being in the works since before WrestleMania 35, that's a little iffy.
Right.
But at the same time, the rest of his statement, I kind of do believe him, because it's like,
Sure.
what the fuck does he have to counter program NXT UK, which won't be happening at the same time at all?
And is also like, with all due respect to those performers, who gives a fuck?
Right. The people who are going to watch the NXT UK show are going to watch the NXT UK show, and then they can start watching All Out 5 hours later.
Right.
What people are getting shitty about with this is they're like, oh, this will be happening at the same time. It's like, no. Cardiff is 6 hours ahead of most of the U.S. At least 6 hours.
Yeah. Triple H's explanation was reasonable and a strong alibi, but with the promotion announcing a second WWE Network special to go head-to-head with AEW pay-per-view in less than 1 month, suspicions have naturally been heightened. WWE announced Evolve 131, which will feature appearances by WWE Cruiserweight Akira Tozawa and Drew Gulak, in addition to popular NXT stars Adam Cole and Matt Riddle, for July 13th on the WWE Network, and in a week where many in the wrestling media did their best to portray Seth Rollins as a corporate bully during an ongoing Twitter feud with Will Ospreay. This
Which that itself is fucking weird, dude.
Dude, don't even get me started. He called Will Ospreay little guy. He's like fucking 2 inches shorter than him.
Oh, I just mean the whole thing is
yeah,
weird.
It was dumb. Fucking dumb. Just noise. This time it was AEW Executive Vice President Kenny Omega's turn to play the little guy. Omega fired off a since-deleted subtweet criticizing WWE's toxic relationship with Saudi Arabia, while seeming to accuse the company of trying to undermine AEW's Fight for the Fallen showcase, which will also air July 13th, with the proceeds going to the victims of gun violence. Quote, "If lining your pockets with blood money is okay, then what's wrong with trying to undermine a charity show for the victims of gun violence? I hear that healthy competition is supposed to be a good thing, and yet I can't help but feel like I'm going to be sick." End quote. This is kind of an interesting line to draw, just sort of as a breakout from this article, and we'll get back into it. As many have noted, the blood money comments from Kenny Omega is a tightrope for him, and is probably why this got deleted, because if we're talking honestly, the Khan family is not free of business interests within Saudi Arabia. And while I definitely see a distinction between somebody who's financing the company having interests in Saudi Arabia and the actual company being actively involved in creating propaganda for Saudi Arabia, it's kind of a thin line.
You're splitting hairs, man.
Yeah.
So him talking about the Saudi Arabia thing, I see where he's coming from. I agree, but at the same time, if you are going to be a literal vice president of a company, you can't say this shit.
Yeah.
That's why you have all of these HR policies, HR trainings, all of this stuff. Now,
you definitely can't say it if you're in a company that can't exactly claim to have clean hands of that.
Even so,
right.
There are ethical layers here that you have violated immensely.
Sure.
And if this was any other industry, he would be terminated on the spot.
Yeah. Not
just because of what he said, but just because of the contractual obligations that are in place that he just violated. Mm-hmm. So, it's also wrestling, so it's, some of it's show, but still, this is that part of it. You got to be damn careful about it. Now, accusing WWE of counter programming Fight for the Fallen, he's 100%. He's right. He's got a point there.
Yeah, let's get through the rest of this, and then we'll talk about that, because that's the whole separate issue. But it is important to bring up the blood money comments. not really something he's in a position to do fully, or anybody within AEW. Now,
Really, no one in business can talk about blood money.
not anymore. That's just not how it works anymore, unfortunately. Kenny Omega on WWE Evolve, airing the same day as AEW Fight for the Fallen, though they have not been shy about piling on in criticizing WWE's current product. AEW's executive vice presidents / performers have been mostly magnanimous in discussing WWE. Cody has repeatedly thwarted attempts to disparage his time in WWE, instead praising the company for giving him an opportunity to learn pro wrestling on a national stage for 10 years. But as the all-important month of October looms, where WWE SmackDown Live will make its broadcast TV debut for Fox, while AEW's weekly television will commence on TNT, tensions between the two promotions will become inevitably worse. And after Cody took a sledgehammer to the throne in a thinly veiled shot at Triple H at Double or Nothing, and John Moxley went scorched earth on WWE in the most popular Talk Is Jericho podcast in history, the promotion that fired CM Punk on his wedding day was not going to take this laying down. AEW poked the bear, and now the bear is poking back. For the long-term health of the wrestling business, hopefully both of these billionaire-backed company bears thrive. They are counter-programming Fight for the Fallen. That's what they're doing. Is it tone deaf to counter-program a benefit show? Yes, it is. But, and especially this comes out as like super transparent because they've had the ability to use Evolve on the network the entire time and have never used it. They've never used it. They've only on a couple of occasions sent anyone from NXT to wrestle there. And so the fact that they're doing both, putting it on the network and sending NXT stars to wrestle there because they don't have anything else to put on the night, should be proof enough for fucking anyone that they're scrambling to find something to counter-program with. And I agree that counter-programming a fucking benefit show is disgusting, but Vince McMahon is disgusting. That's how he is. So.
Yeah, but it's the business. So that it's shitty, it's terrible, it's fucked up. It is. There is no two ways about it. Cody doing his thing, he is not saying anything. Mm-hmm. He is doing actions, and when asked about WWE, he is praising. That is the business mentality. That is what you do when you are given the title of vice president of a company. Moxley doesn't give a fuck. Moxley is a performer.
Right.
If they want to have Kenny as given the title of a vice president, executive vice president, whatever, showing that you are on the board of a company, whether it's a show title or whatever, it's a title. It means something.
Yeah.
You can't say shit like this.
Well, and I guess that's the biggest thing to learn in business. As fun as it is to stick it up their nose, man, and come out and say the way you want to say things, in business, it's genuinely accepted that you do that by beating them.
Yes.
That's how you do it. You don't do it by running your mouth. Especially because if you lose, then you look doubly
face.
Stupid. Right?
You do, but it's also, in the business world, you don't do these things. You can't do these things because of other factors here. Yeah. If they want Kenny to be an executive vice president, somebody needs to sit down with him and explain this shit to him. And I'm sure after all this stuff happened, Tony probably has.
Yeah.
If they want Kenny Omega to be just a performer, fine. He can say whatever the fuck he wants.
And it sucks, but you can't. There's no such thing as a punk rock CEO. You can't be that, right?
No.
So.
And even if these guys they're not CEOs, but if they're going to have the business titles,
yeah. If you're going to put on the suit and tie, then you
have to follow the rules of business. You don't get to just play. Well, it's kayfabe. It's wrestling. Business is not kayfabe, buddy. Sorry.
Yeah.
So I'm sure these tweets a lot of these were deleted. I'm pretty sure Tony or other people have sat down with him and explained this to him, and they just told him, like, flat out, dude, you can't do this.
I don't think that he's wrong in the things that he's saying. I disagree with WWE's partnership with the Saudi Arabian government. Have always disagreed with it. I disagree with Vince McMahon's petty bullshit, and I find the fact that he would try to counter-program this show specifically rather disgusting.
I could not agree more. I'm just looking at this as in the non-kayfabe world.
Yeah.
You fucked up hard.
But there appears to have been no significant public fallout from it.
No, because this is wrestling. This is expected to be, most people do expect these titles to be very see-through, transparent, that they're not real.
Sure. Right.
That these guys they're performers, and they say they're vice presidents, but they're not. I can see Cody, the Bucks, taking these things seriously because they want to learn that business side, and they do take this seriously. Kenny may want to as well, but this right here shows the immaturity there of he thinks you can kayfabe everything. And it is what it is. There's nothing really we can do about it. We'll see how this goes in the future, but it's just kind of one of those things, man. Social media is a double-edged sword.
Yeah. And unfortunately, it's just the way that the world works, man. If you want to beat them, if you want to stick it up their noses, you just got to go out there and do it with sales and not with talking shit, as much as we all love it,
I mean, it's one thing, like, a good example is, like, whenever it used to come up in a conference or whatever, and someone would ask the AT&T C-level executives about T-Mobile.
Right.
They'd say, yeah, T-Mobile's great competition. We love having them around. They're a good company, blah, blah, blah. In our internal town halls and shit, they shit-talked T-Mobile to no end.
Right.
But that's internal to your employees.
Right.
So, of course, it leaked out. But that's the thing.
Yeah, man, that's business. Let's move on. Let's talk about FYTER Fest. Let's start with the buy-in, which was a name not changed from Double or Nothing. Perhaps that's going to be what they use moving forward. I first kind of want to talk about the set. The set was, I think, perfect, and people had issues with it, but if you think conceptually about the idea of the set, it was awesome. It was literally the Double or Nothing set with props that they had it around it, and the props were it was supposed to be a pool party, so they had a kiddie pool there. There's
a kiddie tent.
They had the HEPA tents that they used at FYTER Fest, right? Where they had a couple of those there. They had models in bikinis. They had a bandstand, even though they didn't have any musicians.
The band pulled out.
Show up. Just perfect thematic use of the set here, and I thought it was hilarious. I thought it was great. It would have been interesting to see them sort of reinterpret those stage pieces into a different format, but I kind of love that they didn't. I love that it was literally just him, because they had no money for it, him just set dressing the set they already had.
And part of that is like, okay, you guys built this elaborate set at Double or Nothing. There's no reason why you shouldn't keep using it.
Sure, but for different events, especially right now, you like to see, like, if they have this same set at All Out, it will kind of be like, oh,
yeah, it will be.
See you guys do something cool.
But at the same time, this event and Fight for the Fallen they've been termed their B shows. So,
I believe that Fight for the Fallen will have a different set just because of the way it's set up. I don't think they'll have the space.
It's not gonna fit.
Yeah, because they're coming out of like a side. Their entranceway is through like a side door. So.
Yeah, it's really weird how the layout's set up. At the same time, this whole thing was about making fun of the Fyre Festival,
right?
And they did.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I would like to see... I like that they're coming out of this side door at Fight for the Fallen. I want to see them... One thing WWE does is that they tour around to all these different arenas, and then they try to make it look like they're not doing that. One thing I would love for AEW to do is play interesting arenas and like lean into it. That was one thing that WCW used to do that I fucking loved. You know,
and
when
WWE
they were at a motorcycle rally, you knew they were at a motorcycle rally, right?
Yeah.
When they had the ring set up on top of a pool, like you knew that they had the ring set up on top of a pool. When we get to the point,
WWE did do that a little bit.
Sure.
I mean, in the '90s and stuff, they did it too. But it was like, yeah, WCW really took advantage of that, and I think they've turned into this just sanitized product now, so that it's meant to look. Every arena is the same because every arena is the same because this is a TV show that just moves locations.
But when we get to the point where AEW is doing baseball parks or stadiums or whatever, like, take advantage of
Whatever's around, man.
what makes your venue special. You know, try to have people enter from a place that's like weird. You know,
Yeah. And I mean that's kind of the bad thing. Like even WrestleMania now is getting to the point where it's they're sanitizing the entrance so that it looks the same.
Yeah.
And it's like, no, dude, it's fucking WrestleMania. I
why
wanna see
tour if you're just gonna have it look the same? Why tour around?
Yeah, just do what NXT is doing. Have a static arena and perfect it so that you can have proper sound everywhere and have all the mics in the places that you need them, and just do that.
Shout out to the Temple.
Shout out to the Temple, not the Ice House.
But let's start with the buy-in. There were 2 matches on the buy-in. I think they were put in the wrong order. Three. Yes, 3 matches on the buy-in. But I think they were in the wrong order.
I agree.
It started with the triple threat between Private Party, Best Friends, and what was the third? SCU. Yeah, 2/3 of SCU. Scorpio Sky and Frankie Kazarian. Best Friends ended up winning by pinning Private Party. Private Party had an amazing showing during this match.
It was really solid match, man. Got the crowd fire hot.
Particularly Mark Quinn. Mark Quinn looks like he walked out of a fucking cartoon. Like in a cool
absolutely
cartoon
does, dude.
from the 90s. The other guy, who I'm drawing a blank on his name, unfortunately, I don't think is like Slim Jim mascot enough. But Mark Quinn's like, he was the star for me. I was like, wow, man, this guy's cool. I want to party with this dude.
Yeah, dude. I mean, you could have put him next to Randy Savage in the Slim Jim commercials, and he would have fit.
Yeah,
perfectly.
he would have been. Oh, there's Randy's friend. You know, just the way his hair was done, the sunglasses he was wearing, his outfit. Like he looked like he was where the gimmick should be, and the other guy was still kind of trying to be too normal, right?
Yeah.
I really loved that about them. Best Friends winning. Love the shit out of that too.
Fucking told you.
Those guys are great. Of course, I got my best friend's tank top. I wore it all weekend at the 2 shows that we played in Rhode Island and Connecticut.
The best thing, dude, is like their entrance video is still insane, and just the man when this being a mixed crowd. Of them doing the Best Friends hug and the crowd popping super hot.
The hug spot
awesome,
was
dude.
so awesome, dude. The Best Friends is a great gimmick because the name is perfect, and then you just understand what they are, dude. They're best friends, bro.
Yeah,
Like,
and then you see them like on BTE, and they're both fucking psychopaths.
But even for this mixed crowd, there was a lot of stuff. The biggest takeaway from the crowd during this whole show, and we'll talk about it a lot, there was a lot of stuff that the crowd just didn't get. You know,
Which, going right into it, the Dark Order thing.
Okay,
it fell
so
super flat
So
again.
after a great triple threat tag team match, really a great triple threat tag team match that I thought was probably the best part of this pre-show in terms of pro wrestling, without a doubt. The lights go out. there's a promo from the Dark Order. A bunch of people got points off of that. Followed by the lights go out again, and when they come up, the ring is surrounded by minions. The idea of this...
on the scorecard, it said Dark Order appeared. It didn't say anything about a fucking promo.
Oh, so maybe they didn't end up...
So that's why we all got points off, because we thought they were going to appear.
Oh, that's lame. The minions don't count as the Dark Order?
No. They're not part of the tag team?
So this would have been really cool if it had been executed properly. Unfortunately, production-wise, it wasn't. The lights went out for what felt like 30 seconds.
Yeah.
Which is... that's a long time. And then the minions were there. Then the minions stood there for 45 seconds, right?
Again, it was...
Again, did nothing. Then the lights went out, to the point where, like, you could even tell that Chuck and Trent were like...
this is taking too long.
Okay. And then the lights went out again for another 30 seconds. And then they came up and the minions weren't there. This concept is not bad. It only works if it's 10 seconds, 5 seconds, 10 seconds. Not 30, 30, 30.
Yeah, this is one of those things that WWE has perfected over, 3 decades.
Sure.
If you're going to do shit like this, it's got to be quick. You got to lights out, appear, they're there, lights out again. And like we had a couple of our friends in the Discord that were in the crowd, and they both were all saying, "Yeah, this really felt flat because this took way too fucking long."
Yeah, and I mean it's okay if the live crowd sees how you did it. It just is. In WWE, that happens all the time. Like, you see the guy come down and get under the ring while they have the lights out and they're running a commercial for something. Like, you just see that shit. You see the strings when you're there live. That's part of the attraction.
Or they have that weird thing where they have, like, this whole crew that just walks out, stands around the ring, and they stand there for 2 minutes, and then they just walk back, like, all single file, and it's weird. It's like, you're sitting there, it's like, what the fuck's going on? And then one of your friends or somebody else in the crowd that's been to a bunch of shows is like, they were sticking somebody under the ring.
Yeah. If it works, like, you would have had to have had them all under the ring, blackout, book to get up and be there, lights back on, right? Then they're there for way shorter amount of time, and then the lights go back out and they all go back under the ring. Then you turn off the lights or go onto a video package and they all get the fuck out of there, right? It didn't work that way, and it ended up being too long. And unfortunately, you can have a great idea, but as we learn on BTE every week, if you don't execute it properly, then it doesn't work. Which is a different problem than we have with some of the later matches here. But it's unfortunate that the Dark Order has had 2 showings on pay-per-view, and both times they've been kind of murked by either the idea behind it or the execution. And that's unfortunate, I think. This leads to a Young Bucks promo documentary about FYTER FEST, where they're going full in on it. They've run out of money, right? So they have to replace some of the models with mannequins.
Yeah, they're talking about like how they may not have ring gear,
right?
And then it comes back in later, it's like, oh yeah, we have ring gear, but that was the full budget.
Yeah. So 2 of the beautiful models have to leave and get replaced with mannequins. That's when Leva comes out. And there's a whole lot of shushing with Pretty Peter Avalon hiding in one of the tents. There's more shushing. Pretty Peter Avalon starts wrecking the stage. Librarians now get sort of like a heel promo that they do, crowd chanting "We can't read," which was great. This heel promo they're doing is about they love books, right? I want to say a lot of people were shitting all over this librarian thing. I don't think it's a bad heel character. I actually think it's a fucking genius heel character.
As a heel character, it works.
Yeah, I think it's great.
As a face, which they've kind of been building it on BTE,
yeah,
it's stupid as fuck.
But it's heel here, and when I realized it's a heel character, I'm like, oh, that's great. Everybody fucking hates pretentious library people.
Yeah.
And the fact that they were like, there's more to life than video games and comic books. There are books with words, like just being condescending assholes about reading.
Let's do it.
Worked
Dude.
for me.
I'm in.
That was great. That worked for me. There were other parts of this that didn't work for me. Most notably, I felt like this match that she has with Allie was not great.
It wasn't. It kind of felt flat.
I just feel like they didn't have a lot of chemistry, and especially I do not understand the finish to this match at all. And maybe we'll clear that up when we get there. But Pretty Peter Avalon was there, but just sort of doing stuff on the side. I did love during the heel promo, she would be like, there are books with words, and he would go, words.
Yeah, dude, he was doing his best like Big E impression, and it was he nailed it, dude. It was great. But him just not talking and then just emphasizing that one word and just like, what the fuck are you doing? But like, okay, that works.
And you know, like, to put this kept pushing more towards like, oh, clearly Jim Cornette's gonna hate this, because this was not a wrestling show for wrestling people.
No,
it really wasn't.
Not.
They had Golden Boy on the fucking commentary table, and to be fair, I thought he did a great job.
He did an amazing job, and I think they need to hire him. And there's been a couple people on Reddit that said like, yo, AEW needs to hire Golden Boy right now. He replied back because he's on Reddit. He's a lurker on Squared Circle, and he's like, thank you so much for those compliments. I was not expecting this to go over so well. Wrestling commentary is a lot faster and a lot more difficult than doing video games because it is so quick.
Right.
He's going to be doing a couple more indie events, but he's still in the video game world. But I think this was a great interview.
I thought he did a great job, but
he put that other guy that Cody's training to shame.
But he was again there to bring in video game people.
Yeah.
And there was a lot of that during the show that like you kind of had to pick up on, because the problem is if you don't know these things, then you could believe that it was an event for wrestling people. It just wasn't a very good one. It wasn't. It was trying to be in between these two worlds.
Right. So. I mean, I talked to my dad a little bit this morning because he watches all of these things, and especially with AEW, he's been really excited about it, and we've been talking about it. And what's funny is like I was talking to him last week, and he was like, tell me about this podcast thing. How does that work? Can I be on the show? I was like, fuck yeah, you can. You come over to my apartment. We will record one, buddy. But yeah, we were just talking about the event, talking about it, and he was like, I didn't really get a lot of this stuff. And I was like, yeah, it was more video game stuff. If me and you'd been watching it together, I could have explained. He was like, okay, yeah, that makes a lot more sense. But, there was some of that stuff I thought it was stupid. And I was like, and give me an example. And he was like, some of them comments they were making about, video games, I didn't really understand that. I was like, yeah, that's just, they're appealing to two crowds. And he was like, okay.
Yeah, it was a cross-promotional thing, right? Yeah. That's the whole idea of the show, so.
Yeah, like he really did not like the Nakazawa match. Mm-hmm. He thought it was funny.
Right.
But that's not really, he's not really in it for funny matches.
Right.
But he enjoyed it. And
some of the crowd are there for that. I'm sure that was a match that really pulled in some of the people who were there at CEO.
Yeah, and he thought all the baby hole shit was hilarious.
To the point, like commentary making IT crowd jokes, right?
Yeah, I love that. Most people aren't going to get that.
Sure. Brandy observing the match from backstage. I hope they don't continue to do this because I hate it. I hate it when WWE does it too. Like, of course she's fucking watching. What good does that do for us to know that?
It felt forced, and it's Brandy every time.
Yeah, and they're trying things again still. So
if they want to do this stuff, it needs to be someone else. You have to rotate through people. Like
sure.
Like if the Bucks were watching the the triple threat match because they're obviously going to be entered into the tournament.
Right.
So they're scouting their could-be opponents. That would have made sense.
I would also at least to one time have it be they cut to backstage and the TV is on with the person's match, and then the person who should be watching is like looking at their phone or something.
Yeah.
And then so that's why they like lose the match going up is because they weren't paying attention.
Yeah,
when they
it's like,
should have been.
You see like Pentagon in the back, and he's just sitting there. He has his mask on, no face paint. He's eating his dinner. He's calling someone like a motherfucker for some reason.
You know, or just they're not watching intently. They're like doing something else. But I think it'd be so hilarious if like Hangman's having a match and they cut to the back and Jericho is like playing Brick Breaker or something on his phone, right? Like just...
or just having some fucking weird ass conversation with MJF.
Right,
Dude, it'd be amazing.
Or you know, like ironing or something like that, you know, like just doing anything but watching the match. He's not scouting the opponent, right? I think that would be great. Pretty Peter Avalon tries to interfere, leading to Leva. Okay, so he gets up on the ring apron. He attempts to throw a book to Leva. It goes over Leva's head, and Allie catches it. Then Allie throws the book to Leva, and then Leva like held up her hand, and Allie super kicked her in the hand, and then she got pinned.
Yeah,
it's I don't understand the finish at all. But Allie won. This match for me, I think, was the one of the night where I was like, I didn't like that at all. I thought like the shushing can work with a traditional wrestling crowd who knows that they're supposed to be antagonistic. With this crowd, it didn't work because people actually shushed.
Or just people who understand the gimmick.
Yeah. And I think we're going to get there. I don't think that Pretty Peter Avalon and Leva lack chemistry. I actually think they're great together. Allie and Leva was not a great pairing.
Leva, I think going forward, Leva will have better chemistry when she's actually working with people that she's worked with before. She's probably never worked with Allie before because I'm pretty sure Allie has only worked Impact.
Yeah,
ever.
Perhaps.
So she's, never worked with Leva because Leva's been an indie worker. It was an okay match. It could have been better. It was a good showing for Allie, getting familiarity with the AEW crowd.
Yeah.
The sad part about this match is what really stuck out to me is when Allie was getting introduced, they showed her Twitter handle, and she's still using an Impact Twitter handle. So that says what it is about the match, that it wasn't really great, that something stupid like that is sitting in my mind. They're gonna have the women's wrestling thing is gonna be in a rough spot for a while, just like it is in other places. When they hit their groove, which is like what happened in the triple threat match, once they hit the groove, it was great.
Well, even here, it's important to note that they use women the way that like every other promotion uses the women's match. The women's match was on. The first match happened. I said, how funny would it be if women's match is on in the second slot?
Yeah.
The women's match was on in the second slot, So that's unfortunate, but I understand why they're doing it with the types of performers that they have. That being said, we're going to get to discussing that women's match, and I'll save it for then because, wow. Ali wins by pinfall off of a super kick, basically. Then we move back to a segment backstage where Kenny's trying to set up a bunch of instruments, right? He's like, oh, nobody's setting up the instruments. I got to do it all myself, right? He's carrying a snare drum and a microphone stand and shit like that. That's when Cutler comes in, says, Kenny, you don't have to set any of that up. None of the music acts are coming. And Kenny's like, what? And he's like, yeah, you had Blink, but they pulled out. And Kenny's like, Which Blink? And Cutler
Blink
says
182.
Yeah, but he says Blink 182. And I thought they were going to do a joke about, like, he's like, I went so far down the list and they still didn't come, you know? But they didn't end up doing it. He's super bummed by this, too. He was put out that none of the music acts were going to come. Yeah, I thought it was great.
Yeah.
But they still have the setup there at the side of the ring, which they're going to use later on. We then move to the hardcore match with the time limit. They were really interesting about enforcing time limits kind of out of nowhere with this one. Maybe that was because it was a fighting game tournament or something like that, right?
I guess.
And fighting games have tournaments, but it was weird only because they didn't do it at Double or Nothing at all. So
yeah, so that was one of the things I kept commenting on that when I was doing the notes last night.
yeah.
They kept saying everything's a 20-minute time limit, or the tag match was a 30-minute time limit. Maybe because it was a fighting game thing, they were
because
trying
like
to
Street Fighter has time limits, right? So
yeah, but you typically don't use them in tournaments.
sure.
You usually have infinite time because it's never going to take the time limit.
Right.
If they're doing this as for the sport aspect of it, sure, that's fine.
I think maybe it was only for the sake of the finish that they do later, that they did it in every match.
Yeah, and like I said, for the sport level aspect of it, that's fine. You know, New Japan has time limits; they're just very long, and no one ever hits them. So it's cool, but this is something that Tony or Cody or the Bucks, they should have said, okay, so since we've had Double or Nothing, we're going to start moving into the more sport-related aspects of our product. Starting with FYTER FEST, every match will have a time limit.
Yeah, they should have addressed it because it was
out.
weird. It was weird for them not to address it.
So if it's just for FYTER FEST, cool. If it's going forward, that's great.
Yeah.
It should be for TV only. It shouldn't be for pay-per-views. And that's something, your brother and I were talking about. It's like, this is great for TV. It would be amazing. It would keep everything segmented out how you need it to. It'd
Right.
make so that you could know. For pay-per-views, that's going to suck a dick quick.
Yeah. Yeah, so we'll see how that moves forward. I can't help but feel like it was something they just did for CEO, but maybe not. Maybe it's something they legitimately are trying to push forward.
Yeah.
I actually thought this match was pretty funny.
It was funny.
And I had a great time watching it. I didn't really have any problems with this match whatsoever, to be honest.
No, not really. It is what it is.
It
was a
it's
comedy
Michael
match.
Nakazawa versus fucking Jabali. Like, that's what it's going to be, dog. Like,
Yeah.
you should just be happy that it was anything at all. If it hadn't been funny, then it would have been nothing. So at least it was fucking funny.
Yeah. The only thing that could have made this better if Joey Ryan showed up.
Jabali having pyro was hilarious, especially his reaction to it. He was so stoked on it,
He was, dude.
And,
it was great.
Unlike a lot of wrestling people, I don't have any problem with using a celebrity, or in this case, even just sort of like a community celebrity in this position. Because especially against a character like Michael Nakazawa, he's silly anyway. So like, he gives this great broken English promo where he says that like,
Nakazawa does.
Yeah, Nakazawa has this great broken English promo he does where he says Evo is better, and stuff like that, which I thought was great. And then Nakazawa clarifies. He says, "Oh, I'm glad you damaged your right leg," and Jabali says, "Actually, it was my left leg." And then he goes, "Oh, thank you."
Yeah, he was like, "You should really pay attention." And yeah, Nakazawa was like, "Oh, thank you," and then just kicked him straight in the knee. It was so good, dude.
I thought that was an awesome moment.
It really was. Like I said, I liked the match. I thought it was fun. I feel like there were some missed opportunities here.
Mm-hmm.
And we'll talk about them afterwards. But there was some just good stuff.
Commentary confirming that Dance Dance Revolution is real exercise, which is nice for all of us out there.
Yeah, good to know.
And then out comes the baby oil being used as a weapon, and of course, like, in Michael Nakazawa fashion. He uses it to slip out of a hold. He uses it as an oil slick on the ground.
To trip the ref.
It's funny. I think the baby oil thing's like a great gimmick for him. And he just you can tell he's just like a weird, funny guy. His facial expressions as he's oiling himself up and escaping from something are so silly. The camera work throughout this show is bad. It's important to note.
Yeah, like here was like the first big example of it just being super fucked.
They constantly miss things. The women's match, I think, was the biggest one for this one. But yeah, the camera.
No, I would say the trios match.
Oh yeah,
was the worst because they missed the Laredo Kid thing that was actually important of what was happening.
Well, they missed something in the women's match that was super important too.
True, but yeah, like that. Those two things were like you needed to flip that.
I don't know what production team. I don't even know if this was AEW's production team working on this thing. It might have been CEOs as part of the deal. So it's tough. They bring in a CEO branded fight stick, which looked robust to use as a weapon. Jabali starts trying to down Nakazawa with various moves. He brings him out to the pool and forces his face down in the pool, starts drowning him. And then they start hitting each other with pool toys, which I guess count as weapons.
Sure, absolutely.
A GameCube controller was wrapped around Jabali's neck and pulled, which was rough. Then Jabali goes through a table. Nakazawa reaches into I've never seen Nakazawa other than in AEW, so this part of his gimmick had eluded me. He de-thongs himself without taking his trunks off, which
shouldn't be possible.
Pulls a thong out of his trunks, and then uses it like a Mr. Sacco type thing, except it's a thong. And it was great. He ends up
a used thong.
And then there was Jabali pulled a bag of thumbstick caps, button caps from beneath the ring, and they did a bump onto that. And Nakazawa ended up winning the match through. I don't have it written here. I can't remember what it was, but it was some kind of roll up type move that he did.
Yeah, it was some kind of roll up. I don't know. I even put it in the notes like Nakazawa wins somehow. I stopped paying attention.
It was silly. But they did kind of what I was expecting them to do hardcore match wise. There were some spots. The strangling with the cord and then the drowning in the pool was a little rough. But the rest of it, it was silly. It was fun.
It was a silly, fun match. I think there was a missed opportunity of Matt running out and interfering with this. Not because, you and I talked about it, but also just like of how much it's been a part of BTE, of how like psychologically damaged he is dealing with Michael Nakazawa. He should have had some involvement here.
Are you just saying that because you have to buy me a T-shirt now? Because I'm pretty
no, I don't mind buying you a T-shirt, but it's also like you've made this big deal up.
Yeah, we'll see it or we won't see it, man. I really don't expect the Young Bucks to work as singles ever in this promotion.
He didn't have to work as singles, but like he should have just come out and been like, tried to fuck up Nakazawa but like he's the one who made this a hardcore match.
I will say, as much as people didn't like this match, I don't think it should have been on the pre-show.
I think it should have been on the pre-show.
I think they should have main carded this match.
I
honestly feel that way because the pre-show is supposed to like appetize people to going and getting the regular product. I think this match.
Yeah, I see what you mean there.
I think this match would have. I think if you'd taken this match out and slotted in CD and Shima or something like as much as it sucks to move those guys to the pre-card, like this match is about where they are, CEO, right? And you can kind of get away with what it is. If they had put it on the main card, I wouldn't have given it so much time because I don't think it needed it. But I think they should have put something else on the pre-show and put put this match somewhere in the middle of the main card in sort of a rester spot.
From that perspective, yes, I would agree, because people that were tuning in of CEO people who just wanted to see Jabali's match definitely did tune out before the main card. I mean, I see where you're coming from. I don't necessarily agree, because this is very much a pre-show match, but from that perspective, yeah, I get it.
The whole point is the cross-promotion thing, right? So put it on your BR Live thing.
Right. So it was just a fun match. It was just a comedy match. You know, like I said, they were missed opportunities, but you know, it is what it is.
What were your missed opportunities for this match?
I just told you.
You said that you had them. You never told me.
Yeah, the Matt coming out and actually interfering and paying off this, you know, storyline from BTE that's been going for 3 or 4 months now, because Matt made this a hardcore match.
They're never gonna pay it off.
That they should have done something with it.
Yeah, no.
So that's like the biggest missed opportunity to me. Other than that, you know, it is what it is. The Jabali losing was weird to me.
Yeah, I thought that was weird too, but
whatever.
I guess I understand it, because they didn't want, you know, Nakazawa might be a joke wrestler, but he is a wrestler.
Yeah.
And if they want to continue to use him losing to a guy Jabali's not going to be on the next card, right?
I mean, in last year at CEO, Jabali did pin him.
Right.
So I get it, but you know, it's still a little weird, but you know, it's done, it's over, we can move on now.
Of anybody, Michael Nakazawa is the type of guy who could lose to Jabali and it wouldn't really matter. Like he's like, people aren't like, oh, I love Michael Nakazawa because he's like the greatest wrestler. So the match with CD and Shima was a good match. It was the first match of the card. And before, I know Jonathan missed this match when it was live, but before we get into this, we had, to start off actual FYTER Fest, they did an interview segment with Michael Culeri, where he did a parody of, everybody remembers from the Fyre Fest documentary, the story with the white-haired guy who talks about how in a pinch he had to go over to this dude's house and expected that he was going to have to suck this guy's cock in order to get permits for the thing. Michael Culeri did like a parody of this speech. So like it looked like he had tears in his eyes, and he was like, we weren't going to have the permits to get the ring into the venue unless... And then they cut away and showed people setting up the ring in the venue, and then they cut back to Culeri with like tears in his eyes. And he just takes a bite of his apple. It was great if you've seen the thing, you know. And this was sort of kind of the last that we saw of that kind of budget stuff in the show. I think it would have been cool to maybe save some of the stuff from the pre-show for later on, but that was kind of the last they did. But the match with CD and Shima, I thought, was really good. Again, I'm yet to see... I keep hearing this Cirque du Soleil of wrestling thing from Jericho, from Tony. I'm not seeing it from Shima. Shima is a super competent wrestler. The match that he had with CD, I guess I would say from my perspective, it was what I expect from Christopher Daniels as a wrestler and a performer. I like Christopher Daniels a great deal. I think he's more than competent in the ring. I think he's a great professional wrestler. But I do not think he is particularly exciting.
Well, he's also on the downside of his career.
Sure.
He was moving towards
but
that twilight period.
This match was like his matches, but more like my view of CD, and that's that he's great, but he's not interesting. Right.
I mean, to be honest with you, his match with Stephen Amell was more interesting than this was.
Yeah.
That's saying something, man. I'm sure Shima's a great performer, but he didn't impress me. I rewatched this. It was an okay match, but it was very forgettable. It didn't really mean anything. Mm-hmm. There was nothing really that made this stand out the way CD was talking about this match, of how excited he was for it. So I mean, I'm not really. Again, I'm still not sold on these. These guys from China,
Well, yeah, he's from all over.
Asia. So from Asia, in the triple threat match at Double or Nothing, the other guys were impressive. Shima was not. And I see him being in the same spot as CD, where he's the old guy on the, the anchor on the team. But, they've talked him up to be this great talent, and, he's wrestling Kenny in 2 weeks. So something's got to happen.
I think
here.
that'll be the proving ground, yeah. If he doesn't have a great match with Kenny, then I don't think he can have a great match. But because it's Kenny fucking Omega, right? But
Kenny had a goddamn great match with a blow-up doll, for fuck's sake.
right. So that's kind of where we are with Shima. Shima, no disrespect to Shima. I have as much familiarity with him as any casual American viewer. So I'm sure that he's awesome. But I haven't seen it yet, and I've been talked up about him being a legend, talked about him having this crazy style. I just haven't seen it, and I want to. So we'll see how that goes from here. But that was generally my feelings on that match. It's a comfort to know Jonathan's kind of in the same boat. It was fine. Let's move on to the women's triple threat. The women's triple threat, generally for me, before we get into this thing, I felt like the first 2 to 5 minutes they were trying to find out what to do. And I feel like after that, it was awesome. Like, legitimately, really fucking
rough.
good.
Yeah, first half was rough, and there was a lot of botches in that. But like I said earlier, once they found their groove, it was great. I'm not sure if it's just the unfamiliarity of the Joshi women with Nyla, of Nyla's unfamiliarity. Nyla was impressive in the first half of the match and continued to be. It really felt like the Joshi girls were just rusty. It felt like, maybe they had a weird, time flight, whatever, something. I don't know. But yeah, the first few minutes it was rough. It was real rough. But once that started off, once they hit that gear, man, it was really, really good. And I'm really continue to be impressed by the Joshi women as well as Nyla. Nyla was a great, strong woman.
Yeah, Nyla's awesome, and all three of them had a couple of really great, like, 2-on-1 spots that were super creative that I thought were awesome.
Yeah, and it wasn't just it wasn't the David and Goliath match that everyone expected it to be.
No. They had to work together to beat Nyla, but there were times, there was a time when Nyla had one of the girls wrapped up. The other one had to hit Nyla. That knocked the other girl into the pinning position on Nyla, and then she had to hit her back, right? So,
yeah.
Like, things like that were really creative and cool that they did. Rio won by pinning Nyla, which I thought that was weird that Nyla got pinned again. I think it's unfortunate that she's being pushed as a beast woman, but she keeps losing, especially...
It's fine because, she's in this match more so than Double or Nothing. Double or Nothing was weird. I agree.
Yeah.
In this one, she got pinned by a little bit of trickery, but also because she spent the whole match getting, beat up by these two agile little women.
Right.
And she just, she got to the point where she ran out of strength. I think if they had a singles match with Nyla is going to go over very well.
Yeah, she didn't... to say she ran out of strength isn't even correct. Her leg was hooked in an awkward position, so
yeah.
Her kick out was... It would have been really difficult for her to kick out. So...
I think it's like building up of her being a heel, but this is not the way like of WWE where with Nia Jax, where... Nia Jax can't do shit except a Samoan drop. Right.
It was a win. She pinned her. She won the match, but she didn't really beat Nyla. Like, Nia Jax was had a surprise reaction, but was, could have kept going. Was fine.
Yeah. It was kind of like that heel win where, you know, you got 2 legs on the ropes and you're pushing down.
Right,
so, like,
right.
the person getting pinned is like, what the fuck? This isn't over yet,
Yeah,
kind of thing.
Yeah.
So I think I don't think
So
I
don't think it was terrible for Nyla. I don't, but
No.
I think
but
I would like to see her win a
Your
match.
point. Yeah, she needs to win a match. You're right. I see your point, but, you know, counterpoint.
Sure. Post match, Nyla then attacked Rio. Yuka tries to comfort Rio, but they end up chasing Nyla out of the ring, working together to get Nyla out of the ring, and then there's this moment where they're both together, and it seems like, oh, they're going to be friends or whatever, but then
But we don't see it.
Right, Rio kind of makes it clear, like, okay, we're both here in this company now, and we can't be friends. Like, we have to fight each other, right?
Yeah.
Which is not entirely true because they are going to have women's tag titles. But for now, I liked the story. I like how it was executed. Like, I really thought, acting wise, they both did a really good job with it.
Would have been nice if we'd seen it.
Yes.
You know, that it sucks, but it is what it is. One of the best things I've seen this today on Reddit is they had a side-by-side picture of Yuka of before the match, then after the match, where she's all happy and excited and really happy to be there, and then the flip side is after the match where she has that perfectly devastated look.
Yeah, she looks so sad.
Yeah, that she has like the acting skills and the emotions down perfectly to be that character.
Yeah.
I mean, not even that character, but that person. It was really cool, and it was a really good moment that she executed so well that she boosted her star power by having that little screenshot there.
Yeah, I thought it was great. Kip Sabian comes out because he's doing commentary for the Fatal 4-Way match. He's apparently going to fight the winner of the Fatal 4-Way at Fight for the Fallen, I believe.
Yes.
Which is interesting. So we now know Kip Sabian versus Hangman is happening at.
Dude, that's gonna be a fun one.
It'll be a cool match. It's nice that we get to see Hangman. This I think is the only match that came out of this.
Yeah, there were no other announcements during the whole event.
So I guess we're gonna get that this week.
Yeah, has to happen this week.
Anyway, here's the card. MJF comes out first. Oh wow! This match also has a time limit. Again, Jonathan's sort of stream of conscious coming to the conclusion that this is like a thing for the night. Reading through what you took of MJF's promo is so funny. He says, "Cut my music." He doesn't even start his promo, and he's being booed. Everybody, there were enough AEW fans there to seed that, but
it took over the whole fucking crowd, and it was.
But also
great.
in a crowd full of nerds, like someone like MJF, just like
he's not going to go over well.
Yeah, they're going to boo that guy. Jonathan openly writes in the notes, "I'm not going to transcribe this, but it's fine because while I can't do the whole thing from memory, I remember the important parts."
I got just a couple of lines that were just amazing, and
the crowd's chanting "You suck" at him, and he says, "And that mother of yours whose basement you live in, she swallows." The whole crowd just fucking loses it at him. He did a joke about how he used to love video games, and he's like, "Yeah, video games," and then he's like, "And then I lost my virginity." Just went to town on people, dude.
He really did. The thing that really stood out to me is if that had happened at a WWE show with a different performer, the crowd would have taken over the promo.
Yeah.
And then the promo would have failed because the performer got lost and let the crowd.
Yeah, you didn't hear a fucking what chant during this thing, right?
Right. I mean, if it was an actual full wrestling crowd, you probably would have.
Sure.
But still, MJF took what they were saying and just ran with it because he was improvising it. He wasn't reading a script.
Right. He didn't have to read off a script verbatim.
Yeah.
Right?
So it was just very appealing to see. I mean, not just that, but just because he's such a good talker, that he takes what the crowd is throwing at him and just throws it right back at them.
Yeah, he said
instead
if
of
I
letting the
wanted
crowd
to
dominate him.
if I wanted to hear you people's opinions, I'd turn on TLC and watch reruns of my 600-pound life. I oh my god, it was wonderful.
I was also reading, like, he did a post-match interview and he stayed MJF the whole time, and I was gonna watch it, but it's like I saw it right as we started recording. It's like, oh man, that's gonna be really funny later.
We'll probably talk about it next week.
Yeah.
He killed it. I didn't think he was gonna do a post-match promo. I was betting that he wouldn't do a post-match promo, that they were just gonna go right into it. But he did, and thank God he did, because fucking A, man, he just killed it. He's great. Jungle Boy comes out riding Luchasaurus's shoulders. Jimmy Havoc comes out no staple gun, which is weird because he could have in the match.
Yeah.
And because it had been mentioned in promos, you think they would have just used it.
Right? Yeah, man, I was sad.
and then-
I like those free points from Luchasaurus. That was great.
And then out comes Adam Page. MJF immediately out of the ring, and the match hasn't even started. I thought that this match was great.
It was amazing, dude. This was my favorite match of the card because I was so impressed by everyone in the ring.
Yeah.
And every bit of work there. Like, I had no knowledge of Jungle Boy other than the Battle Royale. All I knew is he was Luke Perry's kid.
Yeah.
Dude, I say kid because to me, he is a kid.
Right.
Fucking amazing.
I mean, a lot of these guys, Havoc aside, but like Hangman's my age.
Yeah.
And he's one of the older guys in the match. Fucking MJF is like 23 or some shit. Like,
yeah. I mean, as I was watching this match, I put it in the notes. I put it in Discord. These four guys are the future of this company, and it showed so well.
I think Hangman and MJF more than anyone. Hangman came out in the leather vest with the silver lettering. He understands
his place,
who they're gonna have him be for this company. And I've said it before, and I'll say it again, not to always draw conclusions to the Attitude Era or whatever, but I really think they have Hangman as Stone Cold and MJF as Rock. And Jimmy Havoc's going to do his own thing. I imagine he'll probably slide more into being a deathmatch character.
Sure, absolutely. But he showed that he can have a great match without instruments of death.
Jungle Boy is going to be a tag team competitor. I think he's great in the ring. Unfortunately, I think he's a lot better in the ring than his gimmick is going to allow him to be.
Probably, yeah. And it's a downside, but still, man, this kid's good.
He's so good. He's good enough that I hope at some point we get to see him evolve out of being like a Mowgli thing into being
Tarzan.
or young Tarzan. Into being something more serious.
And I think they can do that. I think that they have the skill, the time and the writing skills to absolutely evolve him. And that's kind of the great thing of him being with Luchasaurus, of Luchasaurus continuing to say, yes, I have a master's degree.
And that he's teaching.
Yeah,
he's actively teaching him. So they've sowed those seeds, and that eventually he'll maybe be, that he comes from the jungle being, part of his gimmick in the meta text, right? But he'll be able to cut promos and shit.
And I mean, that's just such a powerful storyline that they can take a lot of time building.
Yeah, he's so young too that it.
Yeah, it was very refreshing just to see how good the kid was in the ring, because I thought it was just gonna be a one note thing because he's 12.
Right. Oh, he's young. He's a young guy. Hangman gets the win by pinning Jimmy Havoc, which means at Fight for the Fallen we're seeing Hangman versus Kip Sabian. There is a bit of a venom spit between MJF and Hangman as they end that match. Most of it's off mic, but we can tell that's continuing. Hangman didn't get the opportunity he wanted to really take it to MJF in this match, so we'll probably see more of that in the future. That's assuming MJF isn't somehow getting himself involved in this match at Fight for the Fallen, which I wouldn't be surprised by. Darby.
No, yeah, I wouldn't be surprised by that at all. That would make total sense.
Let's talk Darby Allin versus Cody Rhodes. I thought this match was, again, really, really very good.
Yeah, it was a very good match. It was better than I thought it was going to be.
I think the finish I never would have thought of, and is the best possible finish they could have put on this match.
Yeah, it was. It really was. It was because you looked at the match on paper and you're like, okay, if Cody loses, he's fucked.
Right.
So he's obviously Darby's going to lose. But they took that and made it into a very compelling finish.
With a very compelling and a very sports-like finish, right? Where Cody wanted to go in there and get the win, and it's not a story of Cody came up short or Cody got surprised or Cody got rolled up or Darby cheated or something like that. It's not even a story of Cody couldn't beat him, because he probably could have if time had moved on, right? If he'd had the time to do it. He just couldn't do it in enough time.
As well as he let his ego get ahead of himself.
Right. And if you look back at that match, there are moments where if he'd been more cognizant of the time, he could have spent less time kind of doodling.
Fucking around, doing push-ups in the ring,
right.
Shit like that.
Yeah. Which I thought was great. Darby Allin entering with a body bag. I love that you have weird ring gear put here. That's his normal ring gear. And yeah, it's not good.
So he's wearing a pair of tights and some jean shorts over them.
Yeah.
Cut off jean
Every
shorts.
time I've seen him wrestling, that's what he wears. It doesn't work for me. Maybe it does for some people,
weird,
but
dude.
It's fucking strange. I don't understand why he doesn't. I'm not saying everybody's got to wear tights, but I don't really know what he's going for. So
yeah, but these are like literal tights, like acting tights.
Yeah.
So I mean, if I saw him walk out on the stage at a play, he would fit perfectly.
It would have to be a fucking weird play, but sure.
Not really. It's a play. You've seen weird shit. You can't tell me you've never been to Shakespeare.
I have. I've never performed Shakespeare. I did sound design for a Shakespeare show once, and only once. I was not asked to return because I kept adding too many jokes into the audio cues. That they didn't want. The director didn't like the jokes that I was adding, even though they were great. It's really on the director, to be honest. I didn't do anything wrong. But yeah, weird ring gear. Brandy, of course, bringing the style with ease and just looking amazing. Good match from these guys. I agree. There was, you could tell it put over Darby correctly, and it was a real blow to Cody's ego that he couldn't put him away faster. And there were a lot of points in the match where Cody had to just roll out of the ring to break momentum, and he was annoyed about that, that this kid was sticking it to him like this. And
and then as you got closer where they that 5 minute mark of 5 minutes remaining, you could see Cody getting pissed.
Yeah, Cody was trying, but he couldn't put him down, which helped push Darby as, a tough guy. You can't, I'm going to get back up. I'm always going to get back up. So,
I mean, you really didn't have to after that coffin drop to the apron.
Dude, fuck yeah, man. Coffin drop, for people who don't know.
That hurt me.
Yeah, coffin drop is Darby's one of Darby's finishing moves with a really stupid hokey name, but he jumps from the top rope and does like a trust fall basically onto, and he was going to do it on Cody, who was draped across the bottom rope over the apron. Cody then pulled away, and this dude just like back bumped from the top rope onto the apron, which was a fucking one of the wildest spots of the night, really.
Which, when you think about what happened later in the next two matches, is real wild.
Cody then zipped Darby into a body bag and then did a disaster kick, which didn't entirely connect the way that he wanted it to.
It looked bad.
Flare flop from Cody. Although, here's the issue with the kick. He hit the kick correctly. Darby was in the bag, didn't feel it enough. And then so he got hit by the kick, and then there was like a second, and then he was like, "Oh, I think that was the kick," and
yeah, like when they unzipped Darby and he did a perfect flare flop. Yeah. It was great.
Yeah,
but yeah, that was a little strange with the bag and everything. It would have been a good gimmick if they hadn't have a time limit.
Yeah, Cody whipped Darby with the weight belt. Apparently there was no DQ here. I think it's just referee discretion at this point. So he was like,
Yeah, that's what the commentary was saying, because he literally whipped him with a belt.
Yeah.
And JR was like, they're going to disqualify him, and Cody just looked at the ref, and she just kind of shrugged her shoulders, and then he whipped him again.
They start counting down, right? 30 seconds left in the match, and Cody's just like trying everything as quick as he can, with Brandy like freaking out at ringside. Then they have a 10-second countdown. Time expires right as she's about to come down for the third count on a pin. And that's it. Time limit draw, which is cool to see. I hope we get more matches like this going forward. I hope they have the guts on TV to do
time limits,
like a proper time limit match, or fucking do a 1 hour time limit Iron Man match.
Yeah. Like the funny part about this is, like, the crowd was yelling overtime. Cody was looking at the ref, like, about to yell, send it to overtime.
Yeah.
It was a great little segment there of like, I can beat him. I need 5 minutes.
But he didn't get it.
Yeah. For other reasons.
And sometimes that's how it goes, man. You know what I mean? And I like that they stuck to that. I think if they'd gone overtime, then it would be like, okay, then what's the fucking point?
Probably, but I mean, it still would have been, it's part of the sport aspect. I think in the Iron Man matches, it's fine to have overtime, but for like the singles where it's like you have 20 minutes to whip his ass, you didn't do it, that's on you.
So it's great because I felt like it really did wonders for Darby, ring gear aside, and I think it works as a sticking point in Cody's ego moving forward, that he couldn't put him away. And
it was also just a really good showing for Cody, who's not working with that old school wrestling type guy,
right?
To show that Cody can do the non-WCW
and have a great match
matches.
That, again, really story centric. You know what I mean? More than anything else on the card, really story centric.
Right, but the past two matches Cody's had in AEW, if you count All In, which you should, it's been with an old school guy, slow, methodical WCW type match. Yeah. And now Cody's seemingly out of his element and still performs at that high level.
Yeah.
So that was a great showing for both guys. I feel like the match is now overshadowed by what happened next.
Shawn Spears,
we're going to talk about that,
slides in out of nowhere with a steel chair and fucking brains Cody with it in the head. And I had mixed feelings about this at first. A lot of people online are like, oh, they shouldn't do unprotected chair shots to the head. People know, if you've listened to this show, I'm never going to try to act like I, as a viewer, know what a performer should be comfortable with in the ring. If Cody and Shawn felt like they could do this in a way that was appropriate, then they would know far better than I would. I understand people wanting to reach out to wrestlers and say, hey, you don't have to do this for us. But they wanted to. They knew they didn't have to. Otherwise,
they did it because they wanted to.
Right.
I'm in the same boat. You know, I've never wrestled. I don't know any of thing to do with it.
Sure.
If they felt that they could do it safely, absolutely. What some people need to sit back and realize is, yes, unprotected chair shots are not safe. Yes, it's true.
right.
When you look at the incidents of the most famous one that everybody's going to come back to, always will, always have, and it's never going to stop, Chris Benoit.
Sure.
Chris Benoit, yes, took a lot of chair shots unprotected chair shots to the head. He was taking them day in, day out, week in, week out for many, many years.
And
that's a big difference.
It's also
as
important to note that he wasn't just getting his bell rung by fucking chairs.
Right. He was getting his bell rung by many other things, as well as he was doing a fuckload of drugs.
Yeah.
Steroids, as well as recreational.
Yes.
That also will very degrade your brain just as quick. So, yeah, the Chris Benoit thing is very, very unfortunate, and concussions are a terrible thing and need to be taken care of and watched carefully. I trust Sean Spears and Cody. If they want to do a one-off chair shot, okay. Now, Sean Spears fucked it up.
Right.
That's an accident.
It was
an
a
accident.
lifetime of bad bumps is just as bad for you as getting hit in the head with a chair once in a while. That's important to know. But again, I always try to leave it to the performers, man. If they didn't feel comfortable doing it, they wouldn't have done it. So
yeah, and that's really it. So I mean, this whole thing was an accident. It was 100%. The chair was angled a little bit wrong, and like the back edge of like a hinge just caught Cody in the back of the head.
So what happened was, at first I thought, okay, well, clearly it's worked because he was cognizant enough to blade on the back of his head, because the blood that you got on the back of his head was on the opposite side from where the chair hit.
Right,
but
that's where I was too. It was like, oh man, that's a real good blade job.
That's not what happened, because if you look at the replay that they did in slow motion, there's a part where the seat bends from the top, right? So Cody got hit with the seat part, and the back of the chair looped around and hit Cody the other side of the head. And when he pulled back, just scraped across the back of his head. So,
right, and if you look at like when he was laying there and you just saw the back of his head, like when you see like a flap of skin hanging there, that's not a blade job anymore.
Yeah, no, it got pulled because of the way that the chair was, which is dangerous. But he got 6 staples in his head, which he's had before. You know, Brandy made a tweet about it.
Yeah,
right?
because today is Cody's birthday. Brandy made a tweet saying, the first time we ever went on a date, you had 6 staples in the back of your head. Today's your birthday, and again, you have 6 staples in the back of your head.
That's just how it's gonna be, you know.
Yeah, I mean, the thing that worried me personally is just how dazed he looked. That really spoke concussion to me. At the same time,
I don't know how much of that is acting, though. You know what I mean?
That's exactly it. The point where I was like, I became concerned is like when he stood up and he was just drooling.
I saw the drooling, but again, I don't know that he wouldn't drool in that case to sell the headshot.
Yeah, exactly. So like it's such just a fine line. I mean, that's, to me, I know concussion symptoms. Hell, I got a concussion at Throwdown last year. Just from crowd surfers. I know what it feels like. I know what it looks like. I can't tell because he's that good of an actor.
Right. And
at the same time,
he's in that same space as Johnny Gargano, right? The only problem is because it's an unprotected chair shot, everybody freaked out about it.
Lost their shit.
I get it, but I think this just comes down to, quote, smart marks being worried when they don't know. You know?
Yeah.
Whereas you would think that's what we would live for, where we would be like, oh, I don't know what happened,
And that's
instead,
that's
that, you don't know if he was legitimately drooling or fake drooling. So instead you're like, all unprotected headshots. I feel like a lot of it comes from that. Some of it's legitimate concern for the performers. Some of it's just kind of bullshit.
It's also just internet culture. Like, you and I'm sitting here like, yo, he's fucked up. That's not good. I don't give a shit about how it caused it. I'm looking at it as like, he's not okay. There's, I'm looking at him not being okay. I don't care how it happened. But the internet is like...
See, I'm in the opposite camp. I would hedge my bets on him just knowing that if he gets hit in the head with a chair, he should sell it by drooling.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I mean, and that's the thing. Is like that's the part of it where you look at it as like, I don't know if he's faking it or if it's a work or if it's a shoot.
Right.
I don't know. Me being a person that cares about the performers, I'm looking at it as like, oh, shit, he's hurt. But at the same time, I'm not going to go tweet at him. It's like, yo, don't take unprotected chair shots, bro. I know better than you.
Yeah.
If I'm going to tweet at him, it's like, hey, man, hope you're okay. Want to see you in 2 weeks.
But he was bleeding like hell out of the back of the head. And let me tell you, I guess it wasn't intentional, but man, did it really sell the image?
As well
like
as
like a comic book panel, man. If they weren't intending to do anything with this Shawn Spears feud, now they kind of fucking have to.
Yeah, man. Like I'm sure it was a planned angle, anyways. But man, they got so much heat now to do more.
Yeah. I hope they lean into it. I hope, whether or not it's true, he's like, I had 6 staples in the back of my head, and I don't remember a fucking thing from that match. Like, you gave me a concussion. I was in the hospital. Like, I lean into it. Lean into people freaking out about it.
I can't do that part now, but yeah. But yeah, dude. I mean, and then the MJF and SCU rushing out.
Yeah,
that's great.
Yeah, I thought it was awesome, man. I thought it was great. I hope he's okay. But he did look messed up going out, man. But again, he's just so good, and I've seen him be so good before that I wouldn't be surprised. I wouldn't be surprised if he got back through the curtain and was like, "Thanks, guys," It's just like.
And I mean, from some of the stuff that they've tweeted out, which obviously you take it with a grain of salt, but he went to the back, got the staples put in his head, which is a really weird thing to say, and then was sitting right back in the gorilla, working the rest of the show.
Right.
So
that's
the part where
if he'd gotten really wrong, he would have been thrown up for an hour.
And thrown up for an hour, and there's no fucking way he was looking at a TV.
There was a really long cut to the audience, the announce table here, which was maybe to sell the injury. A lot of awkward pauses, a lot of what do we say next, but
it felt like a mix between we're really selling this as well as Lucha guys are still putting their gear on, so it's vamp.
Yeah, it was a lot longer than it seemed like it needed to be, but then I had a lot of production issues. I really think they used a lot of CEO team members to do this thing. And it
didn't work.
It didn't work great. Now to the Lucha Bros, I do not understand why you would spend so much time cultivating a look and having this beautiful ring gear made and then enter wearing all gray tracksuits. But they did.
That's fun. I mean, I think it's so funny.
Dumb. It's like, what? And it sucked for me because, like, I knew there were so many CEO people there who was like, dude, if Phoenix and Penna come out in their fucking Mortal Kombat gear, like they fucking wear, and they look cool and they're spitting the water and shit like that, like, they're going to be like, dude, these fucking guys. But they came out in these gray tracksuits that looked like they just fucking won a match at Punch-Out or some shit.
Yeah, I feel it was a real missed opportunity, especially with what the Bucks ended up wearing.
Yeah.
That they should have just come out and... Number one, the Lucha guys should have coordinated gear and masks.
Yeah.
They should have all been wearing the same color. It was a little disorienting with Laredo Kid being in full blue and the Lucha Bros in red. It was a little weird.
Like a black and red mix, yeah.
Yeah, but man, if they'd come out, I mean, obviously Laredo Kid can't wear the skull like they were, but they should have come out with the skulls on and then the full, just badass comic book metal gear, and just ran with it. And it was a little bit of a missed opportunity. It is what it is. Those fucking skulls are still badass as hell.
The
and I really
skulls
wanna
are
buy
awesome,
one.
but I really don't know what they were thinking with the rest of it, man.
I don't either. It was weird, but, you know, they came out and then they took the tracksuits off and then people started getting hyped. I agree with you. They should have came out in the skulls and something really cool.
Yeah. The BTE theme starts playing, and then Super Kick Party, and the Bucks in Street Fighter gear as Ken and Ryu, which was awesome,
man. That was so awesome.
Street Fighter themed gear, rather, because it still had the tassels on the shins and things like that. So
yeah, obviously it wasn't like the cut off gis and shit, but it was enough there that you knew who they were.
Kenny Omega came out in Akuma based gear, hair, and paint. The Ken and Ryu I picked up immediately and thought it was great. Akuma's kind of more of a deeper thing, but for the crowd knew what the fuck it was. So
Knew exactly what it was, but yeah, that's a more of a deeper cut.
The weird thing with the fan, did you see that?
I did. I didn't know what the fuck was going on.
I don't know if I haven't seen any word on if that was real or not, but so Kenny, or sorry, Matt.
Okay, so to explain that, so there's a thing in Street Fighter with Akuma.
Okay.
He's kind of like a demon god sort of thing. And yes, people are going to correct me on this. I'm not 100% on Street Fighter. Basically, the way I understand it from the brief Googling I did is the fan was a sacrifice to summon Akuma.
Oh, okay. Okay.
It was weird, and it needed a little bit more time.
I don't think it was necessary either.
No, it wasn't. But
Matt and Nick came out. They did some poses. They were on either side of the stage, and then a fan ran out from the crowd area wearing an Elite shirt and did like a dance in between them. And then the lights went out. Again, entirely too long pause. And then Cody had like a sort of a demon thing attached to the front of his music. And then lights came back on and he was dressed as Akuma. And the fan was like knocked out on the stage. Or dead, I guess is the idea. But
it was strange. It wasn't needed. They could have just had Kenny walk out.
Yeah.
It would have been fine. But, they were trying things and they were just... Those three guys, they were appealing to the video game crowd.
Yeah.
The rest of the roster should have as well. Especially the Lucha Bros, who are literal video game characters.
Yeah. Yeah. That's the big missed opportunity, is that Pentagon is a Mortal Kombat character. Like, he just is. And and
he's literal fucking Scorpion, man.
Kenny has Justin Roberts. They all they talk to him. They're like, "Do it! You got to do it! And
you got to do it!" Yeah, he's like he was standing there like, "I'm not doing that."
and Kenny and the Bucks were both we're all like, "You got to do it!" And so he goes, "Round 1, fight!" And the crowd fucking loved it. The match was what you would expect from these three guys. It was awesome. Some really gnarly. The V triggers in this match were great. Sometimes the V triggers are not great. The V triggers in this match were awesome. And Laredo Kid showed that he should be here. I hope that he continues to have matches.
I hope so as well, because man, he's awesome.
He's great.
Man. I wasn't. I know Lucha guys, but you still kind of pin. Okay, he's a Lucha guy. He's going to do X, Y, and Z.
He's kind of a newer guy, too. It's important to note, Jonathan and I don't really have a history with Laredo Kid, because Laredo Kid's, his breakouts kind of been in the last 2 years or so. He wasn't able to be on Lucha Underground Season 4 or any previous season, and so he's one of those AAA guys you kind of got to watch AAA to know who he is. I think this will be a breakout for him because he's really good, and he's kind of like a most improved of the last few years. I have seen a few of his matches, but not a ton.
Yeah, I mean, I was very, very impressed by him because he kept pace with the Lucha Bros, and that's something that's very impressive because as brothers, they work seamlessly because they've been doing this their entire lives. And when you add a third guy in here who is keeping the pace and keeping the beats, that's awesome. The jumping V triggers that Kenny had to Laredo Kid were a piece of magic, but like the whole match was just people are gonna call it a spot fest, but it was awesome, man. If you blinked, you missed something, as well as, you know, shoddy camera work, but still, if you blinked, then you missed something important to the match or some craziness. You know, Phoenix was on all cylinders the whole match.
Yeah, he was.
Penta was on all cylinders and doing more lucha shit than he typically does.
That's for sure. I mean, out of necessity to kind of be a part of that team, but yeah.
Yeah.
I loved the triple super kick that was met by a triple Hadouken. That was amazing.
That was fucking
the
amazing.
crowd fucking loved that.
The crowd loved it. People online were like, "Oh, that's fucking stupid. It's a fake move." But it's like,
yeah.
Look at the three guys. Look what they're dressed as. Look where they're at.
Yeah, whatever, dude. You know, JR not knowing what the fuck was going on was hilarious. Him being just like an old man.
Yeah, Golden Boy explaining it to him was, he's like, yeah, I know that's a video game move.
Yeah, the Hadouken one especially. Golden Boy was like, that's a video game move. He was like, I got that. Thanks. Kenny hit the one-winged angel on Laredo Kid for the 1-2-3. Good. Nice to see one of the Lucha Bros not taking this one on the chin. And I don't think Laredo Kid loses anything by being pinned by fucking Kenny Omega. So I do think that the Luchas should have won. I don't think it would have hurt the Elite or Kenny to lose this match.
It wouldn't have.
I don't agree with your sentiment that I feel like it's too much of the Elite winning necessarily. But
it's beginning to set a bad precedent.
Yes. And I you know, Cody didn't win, but he didn't lose either, you know.
And, you know, we talked about it a little last night in Discord, and like, what I mean by bad precedent is you can't come out like the Young Bucks and Cody and all of them have and say you're going to have a sports-oriented company and you're not going to do like every other wrestling promotion and you're doing something different, and then the three top guys are the guys who own the company.
Yeah, I thought they would be taking more L's by this point. They're definitely all stars, no doubt about it, but that's the problem, is that they're definitely all stars, so they don't need to be winning as much as they've been winning.
Right, and that's what I mean. Is like you guys don't need the push.
Right.
You don't need the rub or anything like that. And when you want to say you're not going to act like the other companies and you're booking yourself to win all the time, you're acting exactly like all those other companies that you said you weren't going to do. Now, again, it's still very early.
Yeah,
and
very early. We're talking 2 events in right now, so.
Well, you know, 2, 3, but yeah, but it's the bigger issue here is that it's 3 matches now. It's essentially of Young Bucks and Lucha Bros in AEW centered events, not counting the ones in Mexico, because you have to separate that. And the Bucks have put themselves over.
Yeah.
The Bucks are over already. They don't need it.
I agree with that.
Lucha Bros are over as well, given.
They need it more than. I think Pentagon can and probably will, whether they like it or not, be a huge star for them, but I do not think he is famous beyond the point where he could be killed by bad booking at this point.
He's not. He's famous to smart marks,
right,
and people who watch other wrestling. Yeah. He is not famous to the casual fan who you need to be investing in, and that's where I talk about it being a bad precedent.
So maybe my only hope here is that they go far or don't do well in the trios or in a tag team tournament, and it's maybe the intention in the long run is to have Phoenix and Pentagon be singles performers, which I think better. If we're in the point now where we have to like pull out Christopher Daniels to do singles matches or whatever, like, I'm, as a wrestling fan and as a Pentagon fan, I'm sitting here going like, how come How come we're doing this? Like, tag team wrestling is important. Tag team wrestling is great. The Lucha Bros are great. But am I sitting here going, like, I wouldn't rather see Pentagon fighting a singles match against Shima or something like that? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Or Phoenix, for that matter. They're just so good as singles performers. And I think Pentagon, especially, the upside for him as a singles performer is so much greater than it is as a tag team wrestler, even if tag teams becomes a big thing for this company. I think they should be there to launch that. I think they should absolutely be a part of the tag team tournament. I wouldn't peg them to win personally, but only because I honestly think they should kind of give it a rest and go and do single stuff, because I love them both so much as singles performers.
Yeah, but like the other thing is, like, if the Bucks win the tag team tournament, we're gonna have problems.
I don't think the Bucks will win the tag team tournament.
I don't think so either.
I honestly would like to see it on like a super underdog, like fucking Luchasaurus and fucking Jungle Boy,
or Private Party, something like that.
Private Party would be cool too, man.
So, like, my real issue with it is, All In, it was Kenny versus Pentagon. Kenny went over,
right? And
then they had the 6-way match with Phoenix. He was in it,
right?
Double or Nothing, Lucha Bros versus Young Bucks. Bucks went over.
Cody went over his brother. Hangman
Hangman
won the Battle Royale, right? Like, you can pick up on the pattern. Hangman won his match this night. Cody didn't lose his match this night.
But it's more of just like, there's no problem with having the Lucha Bros. Give them different opponents at this point.
Yeah.
Because you can't have them continue to job to the same guys.
Right. Yeah.
Now, obviously, they're doing great matches, but still, I don't want to.
Yeah, I would have liked to have seen him win.
It's like, I just don't want to be a year down the road and a Young Bucks versus Lucha Bros rematch for whatever reason gets booked, and I look at it as like, oh, okay, cool, Bucks are winning. Yeah.
So this is kind of build
quote unquote end of the event.
Yeah, as the end of the event. There's a little bit of back and forth between Kenny and the Lucha Bros, almost hinting at maybe Kenny and Pentagon going at it again sometime.
Or Kenny and Phoenix. It seemed like he wanted to do something with the three luchadors, but it didn't show well.
Didn't end up really happening. So they're like, oh, this is Ed, we're going to turn off the lights, but then we're going to turn the lights back on. We're going to have this unsanctioned match, which I understood the reasons for detailing it this way. I didn't think it really worked the way they wanted it to, but because
it was fine.
Difficult.
It was just
the whole idea of it being unsanctioned, especially when you had a hardcore match earlier in the night, is weird. But okay.
I think it was more for the CEO crowd than for the AEW crowd. If this was at Fight for the Fallen, this would have just been like straight up, this is a hardcore match. There's no holds barred.
Right. And it did help put it over as, it's going to be they're even more worried about it than the hardcore match. It's unsanctioned. They don't want to have anything to do with it.
No liability.
I think maybe they should have done like a waiver signing. You know what I mean?
That would have helped it.
With the two of them to help push that. Even if you just did it on the night, you had them come out and you had them sign them. I think it would have helped. But they didn't. And this match, you and I were speculating that this match was going to be Hell of War. It wasn't. It wasn't. It was great. No. It was a great hardcore match, but like
it wasn't what either of us were expecting.
And I'm not going to hold it against them that they like didn't do light tubes or didn't do glass panes or something like that. It was great. There were a lot of thumbtacks. There was a lot of barbed wire. There was a chair wrapped in barbed wire. It was by all means a respectable hardcore match with some good, some great hardcore spots in it. It just, it wasn't a bloodbath, and it wasn't like an all-time classic hardcore match either.
It didn't need to be a bloodbath, but it was a good hardcore match. It's for the person who hasn't seen a hardcore match in forever, like a real one, other than the ones in Lucha Underground, but like
It was a
wrestling
hardcore.
promotion kind of thing.
Let me put it this way: it was a hardcore match that I would be like, "Yeah, Anthony, you could watch this one; it'd be fine."
Yeah, absolutely.
I don't think he'd have any problem with it.
Right, and we were joking around with him, all week. He's like, "Yeah, you're gonna wuss out before the hardcore match, aren't you?" And he's like, "Yep." So I mean, it was a respectable match. It was good. It's exactly what Moxley needed.
Yeah. I honestly
debut.
think they should have done more. Personally,
Sure, I agree.
But then again, also you have to wonder the crowd that they're in front of, right?
That crowd is not gonna take a real hardcore match well.
Yeah, which makes me wonder why they would have done it on that event at all. Probably because they don't have
No.
Moxley for Fight for the Fallen. So,
Right. Now, at the same point, the Chicago match.
oh, I
Kenny's
imagine.
gonna die.
I imagine that'll be deeper. I mean,
Kenny's
I've
gonna
never
die.
known Kenny to be like a deathmatch guy, but
But that's only because they don't do them in Japan.
I will say, I'm not a body, like people know this about me as a professional wrestling fan, not a body guy, but seeing Joey Janela next to Jon Moxley was like fucking like a regular
Wow.
dude standing next to fucking Captain America, right?
Yeah.
It's so ridiculous.
Yeah. It's like, why are you in the ring? What the fuck are you doing, man?
Janela enters first. Moxley has a really badass video package, and I think his music is great. Like it's high energy, it's rock and roll. It has a little bit of a slide that kind of mimics what his music was doing in WWE for him. This sort of rise musically. I think it's great, and he is out of his New Japan gear back into his
looks to be his
AEW
AEW
gear,
gear.
his like lightly military type gear that he has, which is great to see him back in that because I think it fits him more in this company. There's barbed wire covered chair under the ring was awesome. The "You Sick Fuck" chants actually got around surprisingly with the crowd, but enough people were willing to do that, I guess, that it went around and it's easy to catch on to.
The funniest thing is the first time they did that, Moxley hits Janela with whatever move he was going to do, then steps out of the ring and takes a bow.
Right, they're playing his song, right? You
Yeah.
know? There was a great part where they fucking caught Mox on camera saying "motherfucker," that motherfucker. A couple of barbed wire boards were brought out, which were cool to see. Although nobody ever really hit one directly. I think
They
they
hit 'em
tried.
hard,
They
but
tried to, but
It's barbed wire is a weird thing that people don't get is that it doesn't really cut you.
yeah,
It just it's supposed to hold you there.
right.
So it's a weird thing, but yeah.
There were you could see the Home Depot buckets, by the way, that they painted black.
Yeah, because the insides were still orange.
And the commentary kept saying, "It looks like both competitors took a trip to the hardware store."
Yeah, it's like, come on. Just say it. Just say it. It's not like that orange isn't immediately recognizable.
Janela took jumped, set up a ladder in the ring and jumped off the ladder for an elbow drop through tables at ringside on Moxley, which was awesome. Thumbtacks, one bag of thumbtacks came out. Moxley knocked down Janela and took his shoes off.
It sucks, yeah.
And then went to do an atomic drop on the tacks.
JR was losing his mind through that. It's like, not his socks. Don't take his socks off. That's just cruel. And it was, again, we start the "You Sick Fuck" chants, and Moxley's smiling the whole time.
Moxley pulled out a second bag of tacks, threw that on the ground, and ended up taking a bump onto the tacks that put way more tacks in him than Janela had at any point. Although the ones in his foot looked fucking painful.
Yeah, the funniest thing is they did a quick slow-mo recap of Moxley doing the paradigm shift into the thumbtacks as Moxley's pulling the leg up on Janela, he's spitting thumbtacks out of his mouth.
Fuck, man.
Yeah.
Oh, man, yeah. It was gnarly, but like I said, it wasn't visually gnarly. Like, I think even Cody and Dustin was more visually a gnarly match than this was. This was some
absolutely.
video game shit, which is good because that's where we are, right? But
right, exactly.
But it wasn't Hell of War. It wasn't even like a Japanese death match or anything like that. It was
or any of like the CZW ones.
There was at best a very small amount of blood. Perhaps the gnarliest image is just Joey Janela with a heel full of thumbtacks. But other than that,
yeah, and that's
fine.
fair.
It's fine. I thought it was a good end for the night. Jon Moxley, obviously the huge star that you got to put in that position, and it helps sell that it was unsanctioned because they did it as a separate part at the end of the event. But yeah, I didn't think that the event as a whole beats Double or Nothing by any means.
No, absolutely not.
And then out comes Kenny Omega. Surprising move for Kenny Omega. Turnabout's fair play, so I don't think it's like a heel thing or anything like that. But Kenny Omega comes out, hits Mox with a V-trigger, pile driver through a table at ringside that was still set up.
See, the whole thing, this would have had such a bigger impact if Kenny had lost.
Yeah, I agree. They ring the bell, which is weird because it's unsanctioned, right? But there was also a referee in the match, and it was unsanctioned. Kenny puts the table on top of Mox, gets up, does a foot stomp on the table. Then they drag each other out back. Kenny's attacking Mox with the mic stands. The refs are out there trying to stop it. Kenny playing the drums with the sticks and then attacking Kenny with the sticks, or attacking Moxley with the sticks. Hits Mox with a Stratocaster, which is no fucking around. Wasn't gimmicked at all. Didn't break, you know?
No, that wasn't the gimmicked Jeff Jarrett guitar.
It wasn't even like Jabali swinging the kendo stick earlier, where you could tell like he was doing it really lightly, and it's like, Jabali, it's a kendo stick, he can take it.
Yeah, that's a real, solid body guitar, and he just swung it like a baseball bat. And then they just like mocking playing it while the refs are losing their shit.
Mox shoves the refs, and out comes Kenny, who has a trash can. He slams it on Mox's head, and then he grabs Mox with the paradigm shift and drives him through the trash can. And Kenny is the victor here. I agree. It would have been better if Kenny had come out, attacked Mox, but Mox still ends up getting the upper hand on him. Would have driven Kenny a little bit better, but
sure. Well, I just meant if Kenny had lost the match earlier.
Oh yeah.
And he was he was already frustrated about that, and then he's taking his frustrations out on Moxley.
Then he's also
Moxley
frustrated about FYTER Fest being a disaster.
Yeah, if they built that better, it would have been even more impactful. It was still a great segment, but I think they could have done so much more.
Yeah, I think they really could have pushed his psyche about the thing falling apart more. I would have liked to have seen that. Would have liked to have seen a segment with him backstage at any point where he was just like, I put so much work into this thing, and it, like, nobody's here, and it's falling apart. It's not going at all how I wanted it to go. But instead, we're left to kind of infer that happened. And then him attacking Mox would have made a lot more sense, that he's, sort of shifting the blame onto Mox for this night that didn't go the way he wanted it to. But all in all, I really liked the event. I don't want it to sound like I didn't like the event. Just that it was an interesting step for them to take as their second show, especially when they're under so much scrutiny from the old guard. But then again, fuck the old guard. when they have the kind of money and the kind of deals that they have, they can do what they want, and the old guard can either come along or not. So I was happy with it. I was entertained by the show. I thought it was, a great free pay-per-view.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, it's we knew this going in. It's going to be a B show.
Right.
We know All Out is the big money where they're going to be going all, for literal sake, going all
Right.
out. So it was a good show. There's nothing bad about it. It was a good show. It wasn't great,
Yeah.
but it wasn't a WWE pay-per-view.
Oh, man. YouTube, iTunes, Spotify, podcast services everywhere. Subscribe, review, give us 5 stars, just like Meltzer. It makes us feel so sweet. Jonathan, how sweet?
Too sweet, buddy. Too
At
sweet.
Seeing the Elite on Twitter or Facebook.com/Seeing the Elite if you want to get in contact with us. But if you really want to be a part of the crew, tinyurl.com/Seeing the Elite. Shout out to the champ, =Scorpion1. We're coming for you. Jonathan and I, not at all, but some of the more skilled people in our server for sure. Thanks to Brother Tony. Check out his podcast, Adventure Incorporated.
Actually, no. Fuck him.
To be real, though, Anthony comes on the show. He gives us shit, but he runs that whole league by himself, and without it, I would not have the time to run that thing. Jonathan would not have the time to run that thing.
I offered to automate
And
it.
everybody is having a great time with it. So shout out to the commissioner. And the only reason I let him give us so much shit on the show is because he does a lot of work for us and never asks for a fucking thing. And I love him to death for it, so.
He did ask for something, and then we kind of fucked him over.
Oh, right. Never asked for a thing except for my fucking mask that he's taking. God damn it.
Well, no.
God damn it.
Not that. I was supposed to help him at Dragon Con.
Yeah? Oh, yeah. Well, that's true.
Yeah.
But All Out came out, So there we go. Thank you so much for joining us, Jonathan. I don't think we have any new news from last night, really. But
we'll talk about it next week.
Okay. Thank you so much for joining us. We'll be back next week. FYTER Fest was great, but next week we're already doing our predictions for Fight for the Fallen, and of course that's coming up just the week after that, man. Things are moving fast. It's going to be a sprint from here to All Out, and we're so glad you've all chosen to join us on that journey as we head towards AEW on TNT. I don't have anything else for these people. Jonathan, you got anything else for these people?
Nope.
Thank you so much. We'll be back next week. Go out and change the world.